Let's go. All right. So module 9 na tayo, no? Module 9 and module 10. Module 9, as I said, no, basics of 3D animation na tayo. Now, when it comes to 3D animation, yes, mas madali talaga siya compared sa 2D animation. Kasi alam natin, sa 2D animation, if we're gonna be trying to animate things, alam natin, we're always going to be working frame by frame, no, to make our motion a lot more smoother, no? Which alam natin kapag frame by frame tayo gumawa sa 2D animation, sobrang hassle, mananakit ang kamay mo kaka-drawing, di ba? But compared to 3D animation, mas madali na magagawa yun kasi more automated na yung process natin sa animation. Because if you try to move from point A to point B and parang magko-cover siya ng ilang motion dito, like for example, magko-cover siya ng up and down motion dito, alam natin kapag sa ano to, kapag sa 2 dito, ang dami-daming frames natin dyan. But of course, we have our starting frame, yung next frame niya, yung mga key, yung mga key na actions natin, di ba? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's already 5 frames. But since yun nga, kapag ito lang yung frames natin, dire-diretso lang siya. Of course, we have to move, we have to add more frames in between to make things more smoother. And yun nga, mas active and dynamic yung ano natin, animation natin. For 3D animation, sure, pwede nyo gawin din yan. But really, sobrang ano na to, sobrang automated na lahat to. Literally, kakailanganin mo lang to yung mga key na actions natin dito, yung mga key poses na dito, which is ito, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. No? So, sobrang napapadali talaga yung animation process natin. Of course, may ano lang rin yan. Depende na rin yan sa artist yan kung paano nyo siya papasimple, no? Kasi you can definitely do this, you know, in less frames pa than that, no? So, in regards sa 3D animation, of course, alam na natin yung mga basic terms natin kasi nag-2D animation naman na kayo, di ba? We have yung frame rate and then we have yung timeline natin, no? So, do I need to discuss what frame rate or timeline is? So, I hope not, no? So, kung frame rate, quick na lang tayo dyan. Frame rate is basically FPS or frames per second. How many frames does it take to get 1 second of footage, no? So, in a normal instance natin sa render settings natin for Blender and for 3ds Max, yung pinaka-standard na halos na ano, yung halos na if you want to get a very smooth animation already without crossing 60 FPS, 30 FPS na tayo, no? Let's lock ourselves into 30 FPS. While sa Blender, if we try to look dito sa output properties natin, if we look here, default niya is 24 FPS, which is okay naman, ano? But alam naman natin, kapag 24 FPS, mainly for ano to, for mga 2D animation na siya. So, if you want to have a very smooth animation already, if you don't want it to be masyadong pain-inducing sa render natin, let's just lock ourselves sa 30 FPS, no? So for Blender, if we want to change our frame rate, punta tayo sa render output properties, itong printer icon na to, and then change natin siya from frame rate 24 FPS to 30. And then let's lock it there. Okay? So for 3ds Max, dito tayo, no? So we have our timeline right here. And then may makikita ko yung mga play buttons dito. Meron tayong mga play, and then mga fast forward, and then diretso sa end the frame, no? May makikita kayo dito na maliit na logo dito. It says here time configuration. Itong may clock na may gear icon, no? So click lang natin 'yan. And makikita nyo dito sa taas, upper left corner dito is yung frame rate. Now, by default, 3ds Max is already set to 30 FPS with NTSC, no? But if you want to have a custom frame rate, let's say siguro, gusto mo ng 24 FPS or 12 FPS for some reason, or gusto mo mag-set 60 FPS, punta tayo sa custom, no? And then, pwede nyo i-type dito yung gusto nyong FPS na gusto nyo. But yun nga, we're gonna be using 30 FPS for now. Let's stick with this one muna. NTSC or punta lang tayo sa custom, no? Kayo bahala. Okay? So that is how you change your FPS. Yung pinaka-important na yung ano pala to. Ito pala yung pinaka-second na yung second important na factor na kailangan nating iset before we start animating, no? Frames per second. Okay? So, naka-follow ba tayo? Naka-follow tayo? 3ds Max and Blender? Naka-follow? Okay. So next natin, aside from, of course, yung FPS natin, the most important thing, lalong-lalo na sa finals nyo, is yung frame time, no? Yung frame range pala natin. How many frames does it take to get a certain number of seconds, no? So alam natin sa finals natin, we need 15 seconds, no? So if you don't know how to calculate yet, no? If you don't know how to calculate yet, i-multiply nyo lang naman yung seconds na kailangan nyo dun sa frame rate nyo. Since sa frame rate nyo, since ang gamit natin na frame rate is 30, and then let's say kailangan natin is 5 seconds, no? So 30 times 5, that is equal to 150 frames. Okay? So yung 150 frames na yan, ilalagay lang natin siya dito. Now wait, ito ang kailangan nyo din tandaan. While maganda nga na pwedeng isakto natin yung yung frame range natin dito sa ating softwares, mas mabuti pa rin na mag-adjust pa rin tayo sa mga ilalagay natin na numbers dito. Kasi maganda rin naman na sumobra din tayo sa oras na i-render natin, wag lang tayo magkukulang, lalong-lalo na sa finals natin. Again, kailangan natin sa finals is 15 seconds. So, mas magandang lumagpas pa rin tayo doon, no? Para for sure pasado, di ba? So, for my example, yun nga, gamitin na muna natin 5 seconds, no? So that's a total of 150 frames. So to change that, pupunta tayo dito sa may animation tab, no? So dito, yung start time natin, it starts at frame 0, no? So yung frame 0, that's already 1 keyframe. And then yung end time natin is 100, no? So 100 frames to, we don't need that. Kailangan natin is 150 frames. So type in lang natin dito 150 frames. But as you can see, no, if we look dito sa gilid na dito, meron tayong frame count. Nakalagay dito 151 frames, no? Hindi eksaktong 150. Now, kailangan ko pa bang baguhin to? Not really, no? Mas magandang as I said, no, mas magandang lumagpas kayo kahit konti, kahit isang frame lang para sure na once we rendered out our animation, guaranteed na above 15 seconds yon, at least in the form of microseconds, no? So okay rin na lumagpas tayo kahit isang frame, no? So gagawin nyo for 3ds Max users, start time natin is going to be at 0, and then end time natin is 150. So yung end time dito niya na ilalagay yung total, yung calculated number of frames natin, no? So kung 15 seconds, that's 450 frames, di ba? So 450 frames, ilalagay din natin siya dito. Eksakto nyo nang ilalagay dito yung frame count nyo, no? And then dito, guarantee na natin na 15 seconds yan kasi lumagpas din siya ng isang frame, no? So that's good na, no? Okay lang rin na lumagpas tayo dyan. Dito nyo na lang ilagay yung eksaktong number of frames na kailangan nyo. Okay? So again, set na lang muna natin siya to 150 for this demo na gagawin natin. Okay? So once na-set nyo na yan, click lang natin okay. And then as you can see here, ito na siya. Abot na siya hanggang 150 frames. Okay? Now, when it comes to sa Blender, dito. So sa Blender natin, there are two ways to how we can change our frame range. Number one, dito na lang sa output properties, you can easily type it here, no? Now, ang pagkakaiba lang dito ng kay Blender compared to 3ds Max na baka magkalito-lito kayo, lalo na if let's say na nag-start ka mag-model sa 3ds Max and alam mo lahat ng properties doon sa 3ds Max and then lumipat ka to Blender to animate, malilito ka. Bakit frame start dito is 1, hindi 0? No? Baka malito ka. Madali lang rin naman yan. Madali lang siya ma-simplify. No? Pwede nyo start na rin siya sa frame 0, no? By changing yung frame start natin to frame 0. And then change din natin yung frame end natin to the number of frames na kailangan natin. So basically, same concept lang rin yon for 3ds Max. But if you don't want to change your frame start from 1 to 0, madali lang yan. Yung ilalagay nyo lang dito sa end natin, of course, yung kailangan nyo na number of frames, no? So let's say 150 nga kailangan natin. But instead na ilalagay natin na 150, mag-a-add kayo ng additional frame, no? Mag-a-add pa kayo ng 1 additional frame para makopy natin fully yung ginawa natin dito kay 3ds Max, no? So mag-a-add kayo ng 1 additional frame if you started at 1 sa keyframe natin. Okay? Clear tayo? Are we good on that? Guys, okay. So, naka-setup na tayo. We're basically all good, no? Kung gusto niyo nang start yung pag-setup ng mga ng mga format, yung resolution nyo, now would be a good time, no? Now, when you're gonna be starting to animate, ano lang rin 'to, parang basic na rendering muna tayo, no? So, mas mabuti na mag-start na muna kayo sa low resolution, no? So, let's start with a basic na 640 by 640 na resolution, no? So, dito sa Blender, dito lang naman yan sa format, no? And then for 3ds Max, standard na render setup tayo, no? Now, dito sa 3ds Max natin, may konti tayong pagbabago na gagawin dito. But mas mabuting gawin nyo na muna siya sa bandang dulo, no? For now, hindi ko muna gagalawin. Gagalawin ko lang muna tong output size ko lang muna, no? So let's change our output size 640 by 640. And also, don't forget, no, if you have a GPU on you, please use it, no? So lilipat ko na rin dito yung ano ko, GPU ko, hindi pa pala ako nakalipat. Okay? So CPU, and then manual device selection. Okay. And then we're good, no? And then test render lang tayo para para maka-ano lang tong GPU ko, no? So, while that's, habang nagpo-pre-populate pa tong GPU ko, start na tayo sa animation part, no? So, for 3ds Max, yun nga, ganun lang naman kailangan natin, no? Ang difference na lang na mangyayari sa 3ds Max compared sa dating ginagawa natin na diretso tayo sa Arnold Render View, dito ngayon sa 3ds Max, we're gonna be using itong render natin dito sa render setup, no? We're gonna be using production rendering mode to render our animation, no? Kasi yun ang, unfortunately, yun yung pinaka-best na option natin for 3ds Max, no? Kahit medyo iffy tayo sa pag-rendering dito, no? So, patience na lang tayo, no? So, while that's running, ano tayo? Start na tayo with our actual discussion. Okay? So, animation, no? So, let's start off with something basic na muna, no? So, let's use a basic cube as our test subject muna. So, I'm going to add a cube, no? So, Shift A, add ako ng cube, no? Ito muna gamitin yung test subject natin. And dito naman sa 3ds Max, let's also add a cube as well, no? So, ano muna tayo? Wala lang tayong cube. Paglalaroan natin kasi to. And then, 50 by 50, 50 ko muna. Alright. And then, zero out ko muna to. Alright. So, ganito na yung cube natin. Ang gagawin natin ngayon is, let's try to move it from point A to point B. So, let's start with something simple, no? Now, when it comes to animation natin, compared natin sa 2D animation again, no? Kailangan mano-mano nga tayo sa mga manual keyframes natin dito if we want to get a very smooth na transition from point A to point B, di ba? But for 3D animation, as I said, automated na rin siya. So, there are two ways to adding keyframes, no? For 3ds Max, no? For Blender, there are technically three ways, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na auto key, meron din tinatawag tayo na set key, and then we have Blender's unique version of set key, no? So, yung key na yon, that stands for keyframe, okay? So, unahin na muna natin yung pinaka-simple natin dito, which is yung normal na set key. We're going to be setting a keyframe to basically save a point in time dito sa timeline natin, and then we're going to try to move it from another location in another frame, no? So starting off tayo dito sa frame 1, no? So play around muna tayo dito sa controls, no? So for Blender, click lang tayo dito sa itong sa mga leftmost and rightmost corners natin to go to our endpoint and our start point ng ating timeline, no? So if we click here, balik ako sa frame 1. So again, I want to move this one from point A to point B. Let's say, dito sa pinakagitna natin, yan yung point A natin. So we need to add a keyframe, okay? So to add a keyframe, ang hotkey natin dyan is I. I for insert keyframe. So press lang natin I. Yan. Now, before I click on anything, marami tayong selections dito. For now, we're going to be using location, rotation, and scale because that is yung pinaka-standard way of adding animation data in other softwares. So always location, rotation, and scale ang sinesave niya when it comes to inserting keyframes. So select lang natin tong location, rotation, and scale. Don't worry, may babaguhin pa tayo dyan mamaya, no? Once we have our animations, no? May magagamit pa tayo na way para malinis natin yan. Because currently, yun nga, no? We're just trying to move point A to point B. Location lang yung ginagalaw natin. Wala tayong rotation, wala rin tayong scale, no? So, now we have our point A. Punta tayo siguro at frame 50, no? So, basically, drag down lang naman tayo dito. Drag nyo lang to sa timeline nyo or just click anywhere here papunta sa gusto nyong frame, no? Punta tayo sa frame 50 and then we're gonna move our cube to the right. No? Let's say 5 meters to the right. No? So press down ng G, and then lock ko siya sa x-axis, and then type in ko lang 5. And then click ko lang enter. Now, teka lang ha. Teka lang. Low bato pala yung headphones ko. Teka lang guys. Okay. Right. Okay na ba? Okay na. Okay na. Okay. So, again tayo. Na-move na natin siya 5 meters to the right na. No? So, ang gagawin natin is, again, press lang natin I to insert our keyframe. And then let's select location, rotation, and scale. Now, makikita nyo dito sa timeline, we have yung mga diamond na icons dito. Yung diamond icons na yon that basically presents yung ating, ano tawag dito, yung ating mga keyframes. Okay? Now, sa 2D animation, alam naman natin pag sa mismong canvas natin, without even selecting anything, nakikita na natin basically lahat ng mga keyframes natin dito sa ating scene. Now, ang difference naman dito sa 3D animation, we can't exactly do that. No? Hindi natin siya makikita basta-basta. We need to select our object first to actually see our keyframes. No? Ako personally, that's a good na user experience. No? If you need to select yung separate na object nyo just to actually see yung keyframe data niya. No? It's much more cleaner compared sa mga 2D animation softwares na lahat nakikita na kagad natin. Nandito yung mga layers natin, nandito yung mga objects natin. Masakit sa ulo, di ba? For dito, 3ds Max, you need to select your object first to see your keyframe. And then as you see here, as I'm scrubbing my timeline, nag-move na siya from point A to point B. Okay? So, palitan muna natin siya hanggang frame 50 para nakikita natin na naglo-loop siya. Hindi. Palitan muna natin to frame 100, no? Frame 101. Yeah. So, let's use 100 frames dito, no? So, now nakapag-add na tayo ng keyframes dito, nakikita natin yung may movement tayo dito. Now, let's say dito sa frame 100, babalik na rin natin siya dito sa origin point niya, yung pinakaunang yung pinakaunang point natin dito, no? So, babalik tayo sa point A, okay? So, instead na usual na gagawin natin dito, siguro ang naiisip nyo, ida-drag natin siya pabalik doon, no? Let's say, hindi naman ako accurate dito sa yung point A ko, hindi naman eksakto nasa gitna. Paano natin na for sure, nababalik talaga siya doon sa original position niya? It's simple. We just need to copy our point A, no? So, ika-copy lang natin tong first keyframe natin. So, gagawin natin, highlight nyo lang yung keyframe na gusto nyo i-duplicate. Highlight natin, and then press natin Shift D. Shift D to duplicate. And then, as you can see here, may din-duplicate na siya na keyframe. And gagawin na lang natin is, ilalagay siya dun sa final frame natin, which is at frame 101. But wait, manonotice nyo, siguro, hindi ko makita kung saan keyframe talaga ako. And not unless naka-scrub down, nakapunta talaga ako dito sa mismong frame 101. Let's say naligaw ako. No? Let's say nakalagay siya dyan. And then dinuplicate ko. Paano ko malalaman kung nasa frame 101 na nga ba ako? The easiest way that you can tell is if you look right here dito sa natin dito, top left corner ng ating timeline, ditong part na to. So, tingin muna kayo dito. Highlight natin to. Shift D. And may makikita kayo nakalagay, Delta X. No? And then may mga set of numbers tayo. Yung numbers na nakikita nyo dyan, yan yung frame number natin. So, hanapin lang natin frame 101, frame 100, ayan no, dito na tayo sa frame 101. Ito, yung sa may close and open parenthesis kayo tumingin na. So, close and open parenthesis, frame 101. Ayan. So, lagay natin siya dyan, and we're good, no? So, as you can see here, if I try to play this back, ayan, nagbabalik na siya from point A to point B and back to point A once again. So that is how you add your keyframes, no? How to do your standard keyframing, no? So, Blender users, any questions ba? Any questions regarding standard keyframing tayo sa Blender? That's just our first stop, no? Blender users, may question ba? May question ba, Blender users? No questions. Okay, move on tayo. Before we move on to our next na next na way of keyframing natin, punta naman tayo sa 3ds Max, no? Now, for 3ds Max, compare natin sa Blender, no? While Blender, maganda siya talaga for set keyframing. Maganda rin naman kay 3ds Max, but compared natin kay 3ds Max is much more reliant sa auto key, no? So, aside sa normal na set keyframing, segue na rin tayo sa auto key, no? Kasi yun ang pinakamalakas talaga dito kay 3ds Max. So, scale down lang muna natin to kasi masyadong malaki to, no? And siguro, hide na muna natin tong mga object natin dito. Solo muna natin siya. Okay. So, we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to move it 5 meters to the right dito, or exactly 50 units, no? So, ang gagawin natin, to add air keyframe, actually, we need to do something first, no? Kasi hindi kayo basta makakapag-animate dito without going to animation mode first, no? So again, segue na rin tayo sa auto key dito. So ang gagawin natin, pupunta tayo sa may auto key. Makikita niyo yung timeline niyo, may makita kayo dito. It says here auto key. Or hotkey natin dyan is N. Ako, hindi ko na tinatandaan yung hotkey na yan kasi nandito lang naman eh. So click ko lang tong auto key. Ayan. Kapag nakikita nyo lang may red na highlights na yung ano nyo, yung viewport nyo, and then yung timeline nyo, that means you're already in animation mode. Okay? Now, yung standard na set key natin, napakadali na yan, no? So, ang gagawin natin, pipindutin lang natin tong set key, itong malaking plus na may susi na icon, no? So, we're just gonna click that, and manonotice nyo, may keyframe na tayo doon, no? Now, yung keyframe natin dito, may difference tayo na mangyayari dito, no? So, i-explain ko yan in a little bit, no? So, babalikan natin yan. Now, naka-add na tayo ng keyframe. Again, move tayo sa frame 50, no? Or frame 49 pala in this case. So, sa frame 49, we're just going to move it 50 units to the left, no? So, naka-move tool ako, and then sa X tool, lagay ko lang 50. Yan. Now, remember, I'm in auto key mode, no? So, what auto key does, no? Basically, if you have a transformation, no, and nalipat ka to another keyframe, automatic siya magkakaroon ng keyframe right here, no? Kung saan frame ka ngayon, no? So, as you can see here, may keyframe tayo. But if you look closely, magkaiba siya dito sa frame 0 natin, no? But dito red, bakit dito multicolored? Now, when it comes to adding keyframes sa 3ds Max, ito yung maganda rin dito eh. May mga color coding tayo. May color coding tayo dyan. When it comes to red keyframes, kapag red yan, ibig sabihin, yung animation data lang niya is about location, no? Yung location lang yung nangyayari dito. Yung location lang yung na-alter sa ating keyframe, no? Now, kapag green naman yan, it's going to be about rotation. So, try natin sa frame 55, rotate tayo. Press natin si E. Ayan, no? Notice nyo, auto key ako, and then, yun nga, automatic siya nagtatransform. Automatic siya nag-a-add ng keyframe while auto key is on. So, sobrang lakas talaga niya. So, as I said, kapag green, that's rotation. And then kapag blue naman, it's going to be scaling. Ayan, no? Notice nyo, red, green, blue. Location, rotation, and scale. And then if we play it back, ayan, no? So, yan. We're having our transition, no? But of course, we don't want any of that muna, no? Mas gawin muna natin yung ginawa natin sa Blender, no? So we're gonna have it move from point A to point B, and then balik to point A, no? So, balik muna tayo dito sa frame 49, and then, if we want to delete our keyframes, pareho lang rin naman to kay Blender, just simply highlight your keyframes and then click delete, okay? Now, ang ginawa natin sa Blender, we duplicated frame 0. So let's do that once again. So highlight nyo lang yung keyframe na gusto nyo i-duplicate. Now, ang gagawin nyo na lang is basically shift plus i-drag nyo lang siya papunta dun sa keyframe, dun sa sa key dun sa gusto nyo sa timeline, no? So ilalagay natin siya to frame, saan ko nilagay? Sa frame 101 yan. So that is frame 99. Okay. So, highlight ko to, and then shift, and then left-click drag. And then, lagay ko lang siya sa frame 99. Now, ito lang yung ayaw ko konti dito kay 3ds Max. Wala talaga tayong dito, sense of numbering system, lalo na kapag sobrang laki ng range natin sa timeline. mano-mano natin siyang ilalagay, no? Pero makikita siya minsan dito sa ating part dito, no? Itong sa may lower left corner natin dito, it says here, one object selected, click and drag to select, no? Highlight natin yan. Makikita nyo yun dito, moving keys from 89 to 99. Lagyan natin to 99. Yan. So, yun. Meron na tayo point A, papunta siya to point B, and then balik to point A. So, yun. That is auto key and set keying sa 3ds Max. No? Now, bakit may makikita rin tayo dito set key? No? Now, for 3ds Max, it still doesn't make sense to be bakit nandito pa rin to. Kasi kung sa auto key pa lang, ito lang rin naman pinakakailangan natin eh. This one doesn't make sense anymore. So, I still don't understand why it's there. But really, sobrang useless na talaga nito. Kasi, auto key pa lang, pwede na kayo maglagay ng mga set key. No? Set key naman, it's basically the exact same thing lang naman, except wala yung function ng auto key. Ang pwede nyo lang gawin dito is yun nga, standard na pag-set lang kayo ng mga keys nyo. Okay? So, that's the complete difference. But ako personally, as I said, mas maganda ang auto key talaga sa 3ds Max. Sobrang lakas. Okay? Any questions, 3ds Max users? Any questions? None. Okay. None ba? None. Okay. So next tayo, Blender, no? So na-discuss na natin yung ano natin, yung set key natin dito. Let's try auto key din, no? Now, meron tayong konting difference dito tayo kay auto key, no? So restart lang rin natin 'to. Restart natin 'tong sa frame restart natin itong buong setting natin dito kasi may manonotice tayo na difference dito kung bakit kung bakit hindi masyadong maganda ang auto key ni Blender aside from character animations, no, sa paggamit ng mga rig. So, remember, sa 3ds Max natin, maglalagay siya kagad ng ano dito, no. So, tingnan natin mabuti to, no. Balikan natin to. So, let's say frame 0, pupunta ako sa frame 49, no? Frame 49, i-move ko siya dito to the right, no. Manonotice nyo, sa part natin dito, wait, ba't ako may ano dito? Bakit? Ba't may nawawala yung keyframe ko dito? Ito. Wait, galing ko muna to. Teka lang. Let me just redo everything here. Teka. Alright. So, set natin to auto key. Balik natin siya sa origin point. Tingnan nyo mangyayari dito, no? Hindi ko pala na-showcase kanina. So, while auto key is on, no? Remember, nag-starting tayo sa frame 0, diretso na kagad tayo sa frame 49, no? Doon sa point B. See what happens dito sa timeline natin, no? We're just gonna move it. Ayan, no? Notice nyo, dalawa yung keyframes na dinagdag niya. One is doon sa starting point natin, and next is yung panibagong transformation na nangyayari, no? So, ayan, no? Yan ang konting benefit ng 3ds Max compared kay Blender, no? Ang ginagawa dito ni auto key is kinukuha niya yung previous location niya, yung basically yung previous data niya kung nasaan siya, and then it basically adds a save point there or a keyframe then and there before it moves on dun sa ating panibagong keyframe, no? So yun ang benefit dito sa kay 3ds Max. Now, kay Blender naman, kapag ginawa natin yon, so let's try to turn on auto key, no? So turn on auto key dito yung sa timeline. May makikita kayo dito ang record button. It says here auto keying. So select natin 'yan. And then let's try to do the exact same thing na ginawa natin dito sa ating timeline, no? So gagawin natin, we're just going to go to our frame 50 and then let's move it to the right, no? So G and then press natin si X papunta dito. Now, see the difference. Hi sir, sorry to interrupt po. Pero disconnect po ako. Actually po, 5 days na wala sa area kaya muli pa ang mobile. Okay lang yan, Aisha, no? Okay lang. Don't worry. Ano rin naman, if talagang unstable talaga yung internet nyo, don't worry. Ni-record ko naman to, so I'm going to be posting it sa Big Sky, no? So, if you want to stay in, pa rin, sure, go ahead, no? But again, it's completely understandable, okay? So yun, back to here, no? Notice nyo, nung nag-auto key tayo, walang nangyayari and wala tayong keyframe whatsoever dito. So yun ang konting hindi maganda dito kay Blender, no? Hindi masyadong maganda yung auto keying niya in my personal opinion aside from moving yung mga rigs natin, no? or yung already may predetermined na mga ano tayo, may mga predetermined na locations tayo or may mga reference na keyframes tayo dito, which is yung sa case natin dito should be frame 1. So paano natin aayusin to, no? So napakadali lang yan. We're just going to basically add a keyframe, no? Kung saan muna tayo nanggaling. So mag-add na kagad tayo ng keyframe. So press natin si I, location, rotation, and scale. And then pagpunta tayo ng frame 50, saka na natin siya i-move. Oops. So G, X. Ayan. So there we go. So it's the exact same thing, no? May minor inconvenience lang, but it still does the exact same purpose, no? So punta tayo sa frame 55, rotate natin to. Rotate natin sa Z-axis to 45 degrees. Yan. Nag-add na kagad siya ng keyframe while auto key is on. Frame 60, scale down natin to. Yan. Nagkakaroon tayo ng transformations. Yun. There we go. So, ganun lang kadali yun. No? Now, here are my tips rin. Ano? When you're gonna be using auto key, always be wary kung naka-on ba yung auto key nyo or hindi. Okay? Kasi mahirap while auto key is, yes, indeed useful, hindi nyo masasabi yan kapag nagpo-progress kayo and hindi nyo namamalayan na naka-turn on yung auto key nyo. Like for example, akala nyo ang laki-laki na ng progress nyo and then pin-review nyo yung yung animation nyo, batang weird, no? Kasi yung pala napansin mo, naka-on yung auto key mo. So don't make that kind of mistake, no? My personal opinion, if you want to get the hang of auto key, no? Play it slow, no? Work one frame at a time, no? Work one key action or one key frame at a time, no? Don't move on not unless satisfied ka na dun sa frame mo. Pwede ka naman bumalik doon kapag, let's say, kailangan mo ng konting refinements. So, pwede naman yon, no? But, yun nga, work one key frame at a time, okay? So, don't forget to turn off yung yung auto key nyo if you're gonna be like, let's say, you're gonna be test lang kayo ng mga things. Like for example, change nyo lang yung konting yung mga konting mga konting posing nyo dito, and then naka-on pala tong auto key nyo, no? So that's going to make it look weird na, no? So let's say, di ko na malayan, naka-turn auto key ako, nag-G ako dito, G sa Z-axis. Weird na siya, no? Weird na tingnan. So, be wary of that, no? Always turn off yung auto key kapag hindi nyo kailangan mag-animate. Now, for 3ds Max, madali naman na malaman, no? I think almost impossible naman kayo na magkamali na naka-on yung auto key nyo kasi kitang-kita naman siya sa natin, sa software natin. Kapag may nakikita kayong red na highlights, that means naka-animation mode kayo. So, to turn it off, click lang natin tong auto key to disable. And ganun lang siya, no? And you can still see yung keyframe pa rin naman natin, no? Basta nakaselect siya sa ating key, di ba? So, that's basically it for auto key and set key. Or your basic na natin, yung two ways of keyframing natin for both 3ds Max and Blender. Okay? So, any questions before I move on to yung third way of setting key natin kay Blender, no? So, kay Blender na lang to. Kay 3ds Max, we're basically good na, no? For Blender, meron pa tayong much more efficient way of setting our keyframes, no? Yung by far yung pinaka the best, no? So far sa lahat ng mga software na nagagamit ko from Houdini and Cinema 4D, ito yung pinaka gusto ko talaga kay Blender. Na sana lahat ng software meron. So, before I move on to that, any questions? No questions. Okay. So, let's move on to yung sinasabi ko sa Blender. Now, remember sa ginagawa natin kay Blender, no? So, let's redo everything here once again. Balik natin lahat yan. Balik natin to sa pinaka simula. Okay. So, for Blender, yun nga, ang ginagawa natin dito is location, rotation, scale. While pwede natin gamitin location, rotation, scale individually, meron pa tayong much more efficient, no? Now, let's say, when you're gonna be animating things, alam mo na kagad kung saan direction dapat pupunta ang isang object. So, in this case, let's make use of yung 5 meters to the right ulit natin, no? So, alam natin, sa x-axis siya dadaan. 5 meters to the x-axis, no? So, gagawin natin, punta tayo dito sa may object properties ng object natin. No? So punta tayo dito, object properties, and may makikita kayo dito, of course, yung mga data natin dito, yung location, rotation, and scale natin. Now, ito yung maganda sinasabi ko kay Blender, na meron tayong indicator kung ano yung mga pwede nating ma-animate. Now, for Blender, ito yun. Ito yung mga dots natin dito. Kapag may nakita kayong dots sa katabi ng values na sa mga values natin, even sa mga colors, kapag nakita nyo to, pwede siyang ma-animate. Okay? So, let's see paano natin magagamit yan. So, alam na nga natin na i-move ko siya 5 meters to the right. Now, since hindi tayo naka-auto key, we're just gonna be using standard set key. Pipindutin lang natin to add a keyframe. No? So, starting at location X, click lang tayo ng sa gilid. And then, nag-add na siya agad ng keyframe. Right here, no? Pansin nyo na. And then, punta tayo to frame 50. Let's move it 5 meters sa x-axis. No? So, 5 meters, type lang natin yan. And then, makikita nyo, kanina, no? Kapag itong naka-highlight natin dito, nakadilaw yung ano niya, yung color niya, that means meron siyang animation data na nangyayari. Kapag nalipat naman siya to another keyframe na walang nalipat na siya sa ibang ano natin, number, manotice nyo, magi-green naman siya. So, kapag green naman yan, ibig sabihin walang any animation data na nangyayari sa mismong specific data natin dito. So alam natin sa frame 50, walang nangyayaring animation. So lagyan natin siya. So, type in lang natin 5 meters kasi mag-move siya to the x-axis 5 meters. So, type in lang natin yan 5 and then enter. Now, nagbago ulit yung kulay. Naging orange naman. Now, kapag nakita nyo naman tong orange na color natin dito, it means na merong change na nangyayari and hindi pa siya naka-save. Hindi pa siya naka-keyframe. No? So, pag nakita nyo na yan, always remember to add a keyframe. Not unless accident lang yung ginawa nyo. No? So, click lang ulit natin to. And then yun, may panibago tayong keyframe. Now, compared natin siya dito. No? So gawin natin dito sa frame 100, no? Frame 101. Balik natin siya to frame 0, no? So ang ginawa natin dito, binalik ko lang siya sa frame 0 and gagawin ko, I'm going to press yung I, no? To insert our keyframe. Press ko lang si I and then location, rotation, and scale, no? Pwede kayo mamili dito, location, rotation, or scale, or location, rotation, and scale, all three. No? So, piliin na natin tong location, rotation, and scale, yung all three na yan. So, select natin yan. Notice nyo, no? Ang kalat. Diba? Ang kalat. Compared natin dito sa frame 1 and frame 50 natin dito, na it says here, yung dilaw lang yung may keyframe natin dito. So, compare nyo yan to napakaraming data na hindi naman talaga natin nagamit. Diba? Ang ginawa lang naman natin is we just move it from point A to point B. So, meron tayo unnecessary data na nangyayari dito. So, it's already efficient already kasi we're basically already cleaning up our animation already. Di ba? Kapag hindi natin sila in-include. So, this is one thing that you might want to consider using when you're gonna be using Blender to animate. Of course, maganda rin naman na gamitin nyo rin tong standard na insert keyframe natin, no? Kasi madali rin naman malinis yan, which gagawin natin later on, no? So, for now, kayo bahala kung anong gusto nyong gamitin muna, no? So, masuggestion ko na lang dito, if you're still playing around with yung ano natin, yung standard na keyframing natin, I would suggest na gamitin nyo na muna yung standard insert keyframe natin, yung pressing I tayo. And kung gusto niyo naman talaga, kung confident naman na kayo sa mga ano nyo, sa gagawin niyo na animation, why not play around with yung mga singular na keyframes natin dito. Singular animation data yung ilalagay nyo compared yung standard na press I natin. No? So, yun ang tip ko sa inyo. Okay? Any questions? Blender users? Any questions? Okay. No questions? That's good. Now, next natin, aside from mga ano natin, yung mga standard na ano natin dito, no? Yung mga standard na animations natin dito, like moving, rotation, and scaling natin, let's try something else, no? Let's try to change our materials and let's try to play with our modifiers, no? So, ang gagawin ko, let's play with our modifiers first. No? Let's play with a singular modifier. Gamitin natin siguro yung bend natin, no? Yung bend or sa Blender, ang tawag natin doon is, tawag dito, simple deform, no? Simple deform. So, gagawin natin is punta tayo sa ano? sa tab natin. Of course, before you're gonna be animating things, lalo na if you're gonna make things bend, make sure yung model nyo has enough geometry, no? So gagawin ko, since I wanted to bend somewhere around here, no? Mag-a-add lang ako ng edge loop. So Control R, scroll up lang ako, and then add ako ng edge loops, okay? So there we go. I have my edge loops. Ang gagawin ko naman ngayon is mag-a-add ako ng simple deform modifier. So punta ako modifiers, add modifier, and then add ako ng simple deform. And then punta ako sa bend. And as you can see right here, nagbe-bend tayo, di ba? So set ko muna yung angle to 0. Okay? Now, ang mangyayari dito is for starting at frame 1 hanggang frame 100, gusto kong magbe-bend siya. So, paano natin i-animate to? As I said, kapag Blender, kapag may nakita kayo mga dots sa gilid, ibig sabihin, pwede siyang ma-animate. So, we're just gonna do just that, no? This is the only way of animating modifiers as well as materials sa ating Blender. So, starting at angle 0, I wanted to start sa pinaka-base niya. Click ko lang tong animate property to add a keyframe. And then at frame 100, I'm going to make it bend papuntang 45 degrees. Yan. Then, click ko lang to. Animate property, ganyan. And then, as you can see here, it's bending. So, medyo weird tingnan. Siguro lipat ko siya to frame 50. Now, if you want to readjust yung mga keyframes nyo, simply highlight your keyframes and then click G to move. No? Click G to move, or kapag sa 3ds Max naman, if you want to move your keyframes, simply highlight nyo lang and then drag nyo lang side to side, no? By using left click. Okay? So, balik tayo kay Blender. So yan, there we go, no? So, balik naman tayo sa frame 101. Pupunta naman siya, hindi. Let's make it loop, no? So, gawin natin, lipat natin to frame 40. And then sa frame 60, I'm going to have it return sa original na, original form niya. So, 0 angles. And then, click ko lang ulit to, animate property. And then, back to frame 101. Gawin ko naman 45 ulit, only this time it should be negative para other side. Alright. So there we go. There we go. Play natin. Yan. Wait. Mali pala yung ginawa ko. Baliktad tong dalawa na to. So, lilipat ko lang to dito. And then ito yung lilipat ko dito para loop siya. No? So, yan. Just rearranging things. Okay. And then have it play again. Yan. There we go. It's already looping. And nagkaroon na tayo ng animation dito sa modifier natin dito. So there we go. That's how you animate modifiers sa ating Blender. No? Now, aside from this one, of course, marami pang mga modifiers na pwede nyo paglaruan. But I'm not going to showcase everything. No? You can just simply play around with them. Kasi lahat naman ng modifiers dito, may makikita ka talaga kayo ng mga dots dito sa gilid. Which means they can be animated. So, just simply play around with that and go have fun, no? Now, aside from that, again, pwede natin baguhin din yung materials, no? Let's say, punta tayo sa material preview, no? Let's start with a simple color, no? A simple color lang tayo para makita nyo. So, add tayo ng new material. And then, let's call this one changing colors. Changing colors. Now, ang gagawin natin dito, we're gonna be animating a material. We're gonna have it change colors, no? So, ang gagawin natin, select our object first, and then, let's say, yung starting color natin, siguro let's make it pure white. And then, as you can see here, may mga dots tayo dito. Let's just simply click yung animate property to add a keyframe. And then, let's say, dito sa frame 101 natin, we're gonna have it revert back once again, no? So, let's revert it ulit. Lagay tayo ng keyframe din dito. So, yan. There we go. Now, ito lang ang kailangan nyo rin tandaan, no? When you're gonna be animating yung change of colors natin, no? So when you're gonna be animating change of colors, don't forget to add it kapag gusto nyo mag-loop yan, no? If you're gonna be looping things, make sure na mag-add na kagad kayo ng keyframes sa start and end nyo. Now, if you're gonna make things loop, no? So there we go. Now, next natin is, let's say at frame 40, we're gonna have it change to bright blue. So dito. And then add a keyframe. And then sa frame 60, let's turn it to red. And then medyo babaan, medyo lightan natin yan. Yan. Medyo orange na lang. Yan. And then don't forget to add a keyframe. And there we go, no? So let's see the magic happen. From white, mag-transition siya to blue, and then to orange, and then back to white. And then it's going to be looping once again. Okay? There we go. That's how you animate your modifiers and how you animate your materials. Are we clear? Blender users? Any questions? Are there any questions? Naka-follow ba? Naka-follow ba? Clear. Okay. So let's move on to our 3ds Max now. After na tong 3ds Max, gagawin na natin yung burger na, yung jumping burger natin, no? So, punta na tayo ng 3ds Max, no? Now, actually, before natin, i-remind ko lang rin naman, no? Of course, hindi ang sa material na ginawa natin to, tsaka dun sa modifiers natin, again, almost lahat naman ng natin, lahat ng objects natin sa 3D space, they can all animated, even lights, no? So, I'm not gonna be showcasing, hindi ko na i-showcase yan. I'm just gonna have you play around with that na lang, no? Kasi yun nga, napakadali lang si Blender. May indicator naman siya kung pwede bang ma-animate yung isang bagay or hindi. Okay? So, punta tayo 3ds Max. Let's do the exact same thing, no? So, delete lang muna natin lahat ng mga keyframe ulit natin. Let's start new once again. So, balik tayo sa frame 0, and then let's do the exact same thing, no? Now, so kay 3ds Max, mag-auto key na tayo, no? Again, auto key tayo palagi kay 3ds Max kasi trust me, sobrang ganda talaga nito ng auto key kay 3ds Max. And yun nga, wala tayong clear indicator kay 3ds Max kung ano yung pwedeng ma-animate. It's more of a trial and error ba, no? So, let's do just that. Actually, before we auto key, let's add some geometry dito kasi wala naman tong kahit anong geometry, no? So, editable poly tayo. And then, wag na pala editable poly. Dagdagan ko na lang yung height segments. No? So, dagdagan ko lang to. Okay, 30 should be enough. Okay. And then, gagawin natin, let's add a bend modifier. So, modifier list, hanapin natin si bend. Yan. And then, if we try to play around with this, yan, naglalaro siya ngayon, di ba? And then, ang gagawin natin, lagay natin sa y-axis ba? Nope, not y-axis. Na z pala. Z-axis to, no? And then, z-axis. Yep, sa z-axis to. Sa z-axis, and then change lang natin yung direction to 90. Check natin. Para mag-bend siya forward and backward. Okay, that's good. Now, let's start animating this, no? So, again, auto key gagamitin natin. So, starting with auto key, pwedeng wala na tayong ilagay dito na keyframe kasi there's no keyframe to be had here, no? Hindi natin pwedeng i-click tong set key na to kasi wala tayong purpose na kagaya kay Blender na wala tayong indicator dito na sa mga gilid natin na pwede siyang i-animate. So the only way to animate your modifiers and basically anything else that has values or color is through auto key. So ang mangyayari dyan, diretso na kagad tayo sa ating sa ating next na keyframe. So dito frame 49. Frame 39 pala. Frame 39. And then let's move it 45 degrees forward. And then manonotice nyo, nag-bend na siya and nag-add tayo ng keyframe. Now, manonotice nyo ngayon dito, yung keyframe natin is now black. Now, that's another color that symbolizes keyframes when it comes to modifiers, when it comes to light, and of course, sa mga materials natin. So, apat na yung colors natin dito. Red is for location, green is for rotation, blue for scale, and then black for the other values. No? For yung mga values ng light, ng mga modifiers, ng animation, camera, etc., etc. Okay? So, there we go. As you can see here, nag-animate siya. And then, lipat tayo sa frame 59. Lipat natin siya to -45. Yan. And then, ito lang yung konting downside lang rin natin dito, no? So, pwede nyo nating i-type naman natin manually sa na 0 kagad siya, or pwede pa rin naman nating i-duplicate pa rin natin dito. Ako personally, for me, hindi ko lang masyadong kursunada talaga dito yung pag-animate ng mga modifiers, no? It's not exactly a good thing for me, no? So, pwede nating i-type na lang natin dito frame 99. Tama, frame 99. So, 0. There we go. And then, let's just have it play around. Pwede rin naman natin i-duplicate. As I said, pwede nyo i-duplicate yan. And there we go. It's animating as intended. Now, ang problem lang natin dito, Ang difference lang natin dito, notice nyo, sa baba yung ano, nakastick dito sa baba yung ano natin, yung tawag natin dito, yung ating, limutan ko na, yung ating yung plating acting base pala, no? Sa base nag-iisimula yung bend natin. But compare natin kay Blender, dito siya nag-aano, sa gitna siya nag-aano, no? So, bakit ganon? Because when it comes to animation for basically any software, no, hindi sa object kinukuha ng software yung data ng ating X, Y, and Z. Hindi. Dito sa origin point natin or sa 3ds Max, tawag natin dyan is pivot point. No? So dito kinukuha ni software yung data ng ating mga X, Y, and Z. So, since nandito sa baba yung ano natin, yung technically yung object natin, no, or yung pivot point natin, dito nagsisimula yung bending natin. So, permanently nakastuck siya dito. While dito kay Blender, nandito siya sa gitna, no? Nandito siya sa gitna. So paano natin magagawa 'yon, no? Now there are two ways, no? Actually, di-discuss na natin 'yan ngayon, no? Kasi magpupunta na tayo kay burger, no? So, discuss na natin 'yon. Now, before I move on to that, clear na ba tayo sa ano, modifiers? Actually, hindi ko pa na nagagawa. Materials. I'm sorry, materials nalimutan ko. So, materials. So, again, punta tayo sa material editor. So, press natin si M. And then, of course, mag-add tayo ng panibagong material. So, add tayo ng physical material na lang. And then, let's add it here, no? Now, so same lang rin naman tayo sa ano? Same lang rin tayo sa pag-add ng colors natin sa 3ds Max, no? Now, ang only lang na ang ayaw ko dito is yung ano natin dito, yung, how can I say this ba? Ito na yung pinakaayaw ko sa 3ds Max, no? Kapag nagmi-mix up kayo ng mga modifiers and ano, ng mga values pala sa material na animation, no? Kasi magulo siya. Magulo talaga siya. Hindi niyo siya makikita dito kay Blender na okay, kapag yung recent na ginawa nyo is for modifiers, modifiers yung makikita nyo doon. So, for 3ds Max, ito yung pinakaayaw ko. Medyo mas mahirap i-ano, mag-animate ng material, no? So, let's set it to white again for us, our basis. And then, next natin, frame 39. Punta tayo dito sa ating ano tawag yung blue yung ginawa natin. Siguro gawin natin red naman. Oops, gawin natin red. Okay, click OK. And then, punta tayo ng frame 59. No? And then, gawin natin siyang blue. Yan. And then, babalik siya to white. Now, alam naman natin na white naman na to, so pwedeng diretso natin to white. But let's say na itong frame start nyo and then yung frame end nyo, magkaiba. Hindi nyo basta maduduplicate to. No? Kasi kapag dinuplicate nyo na ano, ginawa nyong panghuli yung ano nyo, yung color change nyo compared dun sa ano, instead na sa movement yung ano, yung pinakahuli, may iba talaga yung magiging itsura nito. Yung magiging itsura nito, yung ilalagay nyo dito sa endpoint is literally kapareho lang dito sa first frame nyo, no? So let's say dito sa starting point natin dito, nakabend na kagad siya. And alam natin dito sa final frame natin dito, naka-stationary na siya. Zero yung angle change niya. Kapag dinuplicate ko to, na with a 45-degree na change, dinuplicate ko siya papunta dito, yung end ko, mapupunta rin is 45-degree. So, ano yung pwede nating ma-bypass doon? Paano natin siya ma-bypass? If you're gonna be animating your materials or yung mga colors natin, make sure yun ang unahin yung gawin. Wag yung, ano tawag dito, wag yung movements. Unahin nyo yung color change first before the actual animation of your movement ng either modifiers or ng mga kahit anong value. No? So always remember that. Always priority kapag pagsasama nyo yung color change and yung mga other values. Okay? Clear ba tayo doon, 3ds Max users? For Blender, walang problem yan. Kasi yun nga, separate talaga siya sa ano natin. Madali siyang ma-separate. Kaya alam na natin kung ano yung magagawa natin doon. Okay? So, ganun lang naman for 3ds Max. Okay? So, there we go. That is it for 3ds Max when it comes to changing your modifiers and your materials. So, that's literally it sa lahat ng mga controls natin ng standard animation and how can we animate things and ano yung mga pwede nating ma-animate. Okay? So, are there any questions? Kasi after this, demo na tayo dun sa mismong burger natin. We're gonna have it jump. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? No questions. Okay, so let's move on with our burger model. Now, yung again, may nasa ano na natin yan. Nasa big screen na natin yan, yung burger model, as you can already see right here. Move ko na sa gilid. Ayun, yun yung burger model natin. Now, yung pinakaunang, yung first order of business natin dito. Notice nyo, if you look at the model, marami siyang mga parts. No? Meron tayong may bun, may tomatoes, cheese, etc., etc. Marami siyang parts. No? Now, if you're gonna want to animate this to, let's say, make it jump, no? Sure, pwede yung mano-manong patatalunin each individual na each individual part niya, but that is super inefficient, no? That's bad, no? That's very bad practice. So, paano natin i-animate to as a singular object? Now, there are two ways. One is yung rough and not exactly a good method, which is basically selecting everything here and then press natin Control J. So, that's basically just joining everything into one object, no? Sure, pwede natin gawin yan, pero ang problem natin dito, nabawasan na yung creative freedom natin. Let's say, kapag talon natin dito, gumalaw-galaw yung mga yung mga ingredients niya, no? Hindi natin magagawa yan kasi it's now one singular object. So, let's leave out yung join natin, no? We're not gonna be using Control J. Ang gagawin natin is we're going to be making a controller. Okay? So, to make a controller, kailangan natin ng actual na object na magagamit natin and will serve as the object that we are going to animate. Hindi itong mismong model natin. Yung controller natin, yun yung i-animate natin. So, for Blender, marami akong pwede masasuggest, pero isa lang talaga yung pinakamaganda, which is yung empty axis. No? So, let's switch over to our front view by pressing numpad 1, and then Shift-A tayo, Shift-A, and then add tayo ng empty axis. No? Empty, and then plain axis. And then ito na yun, no? Ito na yung plain axis natin. This thing right here. No? Remember, ang kailangan natin dito is yung plain axis natin dito. But really, ang pinakailangan natin dito is yung origin point ni plain axis. Kasi, literally, it's just one singular point siya. No? So, ang mangyayari dito, we want our object to always be planted dito sa grid natin. Always nakapatong siya dito sa grid natin. No? So, roughly, ang gagawin nyo for Blender is we're gonna move it and place it to the bottom of our model. No? So, roughly lang yan, or kung gusto nyo i-snap, sure, go ahead. But definitely, mas gusto nyo talagang dikit na dikit siya sa model natin. No? So, dapat na natin siya dyan. Yan, okay na siya. No? Nandun na siya sa pinakailalim ng burger model natin. Now, once nakalagay na yan, of course, let's be organized. Type in natin to controller. Rename natin siya controller for Borgar. So, yan si character, si Borgar. So, yan na yung controller natin sa kanya. Ang gagawin natin ngayon, isasama natin yung mga parts niya dito sa ating empty axis. Basically, i-connect natin yung mga parts niya dito sa controller natin dito. So, every time that we try to move our axis, susunod si Borgar. No? So, ang gagawin natin is the process called parenting. Yes, parenting, yung definition nito is going to be legit, the exact same sa natin, real world definition. Ano ba yung parenting? So, yung empty axis natin, in terms of parenting, ito yung magulang. Ito na yung magiging parent. And then, itong mga parts natin dito, ito yung children niya. So, if we try to incorporate real life na natin, mga real life na situation natin, when it comes to major decisions, parents palagi ang nangunguna, lalo sa mga bata, di ba? So, in this case, sa software natin, yung mga major decisions na yun yung location, rotation, and scale niya. Yun ang pinaka-kailangan natin dito as a controller. Now, children, since yun nga, ang children natin, while for the most part, lahat ng mga major decisions ng parent is dapat masunod niya, pwede pa rin naman siyang gumalaw on its own. No? So, let's do that. No? Let's try parenting na sa Blender. So, gagawin natin, before we try to add it, kailangan muna nakaselect natin yung mga object natin dito or yung mga children ng controller natin. So gagawin natin for an easier for easier access sa mga parts natin, dito niyo siya i-select sa outliner nyo. So select natin yung bun, yung cheese, yung ice, lettuce, yung patty, yung bun, and yung tomato. So nakaselect na lahat ng mga children natin. Ang gagawin nyo na next is you're going to select your parent. Or in this case, yung controller natin. So always last palagi yung magiging parent or yung controller nyo. So control, left click dun sa controller natin. Now, malalaman nyo naman na kapag yung controller ang na-last click nyo, once highlight siya ng much lighter blue na shade and yung orange font niya is much more lighter. So, pag nakita nyo na yung dalawang ano na yon, yung dalawang itsura na yon, you're good. No? So, once naka-select na yung controller natin, press nyo lang Control P to parent. And then, set parent to object. Select natin yan. And then there we go. Notice nyo, nawala yung mga ano natin, yung mga parts natin. But, they're actually still here. They're actually under our controller. Ayan, if click nyo lang itong drop-down natin dito, nandito silang lahat. And, if I try to, remember, hindi na ako nakaselect dito. If I try to select my controller, and then I try to move it, sumasama na ngayon si Borgar. No? And then, last but not least, ipatong na lang natin siya dito sa ating grid. No? So, since yung origin point ng empty axis natin dito is yung dito mismo sa ano natin, sa pinaka-world origin natin, zero out lang natin yan, and we're good. And if you try to look sa front view, ayan, nakapatong na siya dun sa ating grid. And we can start animating na. Yung i-animate natin to, as I said, yung controller natin dito. Now, pwede natin balikan dito sa ano natin, sa mismong cube natin dito. So, let's zero out yung X natin dito. Let's do the exact same method once again. Only this time, sa case naman ni modifier dito, ang pwede natin gawin dito is, pwede natin gamitin yung origin ng ating, ng ating empty. No? So, gagawa na tayo ng panibagong empty. Shift A, and then add tayo ng empty, and then plane axis. And then, lipat lang natin siya dito sa baba again. No? So, lipat natin siya doon, sa pinakababa, kagaya doon sa 3ds Max natin, dapat dito sa baba siya magsisimula, yung pinaka-origin niya. So, again, balik tayo sa cube. Set natin yung origin natin to that empty object. No? Sana yun. So, type in lang natin empty. Ayan. And then, tingnan natin kung ano yung itsura na yan. Ayan. No? Doon na sa baba yan. So, that's how you can play around with your bend modifier. Now, don't worry guys. Sa case natin dito, sa bend lang yan. Meron pa tayong much more efficient method to do this, which is basically changing yung mismong natin, yung mismong origin point natin. But we're gonna be leaving that to our rigging discussion na lang muna. For now, mas magandang mag-start kayo with your controllers. No? It's a good practice na yun. It's a good na method rin naman. No? Both are pretty useful, no? Pero yun nga, medyo different lang yung magiging pipeline na mangyayari, no? So you can play around with that, no? Make use of a controller muna. But for now, we're not gonna be doing that. Hide na muna natin tong cube natin dito and then yung isang empty natin. And we can start animating. But before we do that, before I do my animation, dito tayo kay 3ds Max. Okay? Now, for 3ds Max, for Blender pala muna, any questions? Are there any questions? Blender users, any questions? Any questions, Blender users? Any questions? Wala? Okay. So, next na tayo sa 3ds Max, no? So, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Gagawa lang tayo ng controller and of course, pagpe-parenting tayo. So, hide na muna natin tong isang box natin and hide natin tong ating mga parts. No? So, there we go. Now, to make our controller, again, same process lang tayo doon, no? Same process lang natin. Ang difference lang natin dito, kay 3ds Max, wala tayong empty, no? Wala tayong empty axis. Pero meron pa rin tayong pwedeng magamit na hindi natin makikita sa render natin, no? So, ang pwede natin gamitin is yung mga splines natin. Or in this case, ito, yung shapes, no? So, balik tayo sa shape na natin, sa create tab natin, and then dito sa splines, no? Now, pwede kayo mamili kahit alin dito. Ako personally, for 3ds Max, if I'm going to be making controller, always circle ang ginagamit ko. No? I don't know why, pero for me, parang nadadalian ako sa circle. No? Mas madaling isalip. So, punta na ako top view and then I'm just going to make a circle. No? Now, yung gagawin ko na circle dito is I'm going to be making it a slightly bigger dun sa natin, sa mismong model natin dito. Basta yung to the point na madaling nyo masaselect nga yung circle nyo. So, 0, 0, Now, of course, yung next natin na gagawin is we need to make sure na nasa gitna rin tong ano natin, yung model natin dito. Ako, sure, pwede rin naman, kahit hindi rin naman, ano? Kasi yung magaan dito, maghahari pa rin naman dito is yung empty axis nyo. But ako personally, before you start adding your controller, make sure na nasa gitna yung model nyo. Now, for something like this na talaga sa out of ano na siya, out of center na kagad siya, pwedeng kahit mano-mano nyo na lang yan, ano? Madali rin naman siyang maano. And pwede nyo gawin, since if you try to select everything, nasa gitna rin naman, sa gitna niya kagad ilalagay yung pinaka-pivot point ng lahat-lahat, ang pwede nyo gawin, punta kayo top view, and then click nyo tong snap tool, and then right-click tayo, and then turn off nyo lang yung, add nyo pa lang to, add nyo na lang yung grid points, no? So grid points, select nyo yan, and then X natin, and then we're basically going to snap it dito sa gitna natin, no? And then snap lang natin siya papunta doon, and you're good. And then, pwedeng disable na natin yung grid points if you want to para hindi nakakalito. And then, X, and we're good. No? Naka-center na kagad siya. So, yun. Naka-center na siya. And now, we're just gonna do the exact same thing na ginawa natin sa Blender. So, punta tayo sa front view. And gawin natin itong circle. Rename din natin to as controller. Oh, not that one. This one here. Rename. Controller Borgar. Yan. So, again, itatapat lang natin itong controller natin doon sa pinaka-base ng ating model. So, right here, pwede nyo gamitan sa snap kung gusto nyo. There we go. Tapat lang natin siya dyan. And we're good. Once nakatapat na siya dyan, ang gagawin natin ngayon is we need to parent our parts, no? Yung mga children natin dito sa controller. So, ang gagawin natin, we first need to select yung mga children natin. So, select na natin yung mga parts natin. Yung bun, cheese, ice, lettuce, patty, bun, and tomato. So once nakaselect na lahat yan, dito sa natin, sa ating outliner dito sa gilid, may makikita kayong para mga flowchart. Meron tayong pick parent and meron tayong select children. Now, it doesn't matter kung ano piliin nyo dyan. Ako personally, hindi ko ginagamit tong select children kasi I don't know why, pero medyo faulty rin siya minsan. So, ang ginagawa ko is literally the exact same process sa Blender. No? So, I'm just going to pick the parent na lang. So, select ko muna lahat ng children, and then I pick my parent. So, select ko lang to, pick parent, and then isa-select ko lang yung controller ko. So, pwede nyo select dito sa viewport nyo, or pwede nyo i-select yung controller nyo. So, select ko lang dito sa outliner. Ayun. And then, as you can see, kapareho na siya dito sa Blender natin. No? It's all under na sa controller natin. And then, pwede natin ilipat na rin siya sa sa pinakataas natin, 0. Ayan, nakapatong na kagad siya sa ating grid. There we go. That is how you make your controller. Any questions? Any questions, guys? For 3ds Max and or Blender? Okay. Now, kung wala kayong questions, let's start animating. Now, when it comes to animating sa demo ko na ngayon, wala na ako masyadong maituturo pa dito. I'm just mainly going to give my thoughts during my creative process dito. So, ang goal natin ngayon dito sa demo is we're going to make our burger jump. No? Yung parang inano ko dito pinakita ko sa inyo. No? So, this one right here, we're gonna have it jump. That one. No? Tumalon lang siya. So, meron siyang konting squish and then tatalon siya and then pagbagsak niya, may konting bounce pa siya konti, no? So, that is what we're gonna do. So, let's do just that. Now, alam natin sa animation na yon, sa movement natin doon, there are 3 points tayo dito. No? Now, siguro gagawin ko na lang to sa Blender kasi mas madali. But don't worry, uulitin ko rin to sa 3ds Max. No? So, alam na 3ds Max users, alam nyo naman na alam nyo na yung natin dito, yung kailangan natin gawin when it comes to animation, no? So yun ang muna gagawin natin. We're just going to animate our movement. We're gonna try to make it jump. So your standard keyframing na lang to, auto keying, and everything na tinuro ko kanina, no? But for now, gagawin ko muna to sa Blender, no, for the active demo. I-repeat ko na lang ulit yung demo natin dito sa 3ds Max after we have finished our animation. Okay? So, okay lang ba? 3ds Max users, okay lang ba? May I have your permission to do that? Okay lang ba sa inyo? Kasi mas mabilis gawin sa Blender to. Mas mabilis i-animate to. So, okay lang ba? Okay lang ba, guys? Okay lang ba? 3ds, okay. So, Unahin natin dito sa Blender, no? So, to visualize it, no? Again, kailangan natin i-visualize nyo muna yung animation nyo. Ano yung mga kailangan nyo na key action poses sa animation nyo? So, alam natin is going to be a jumping action. So, kailangan natin, meron tayong nasa ground plane siya. And then, yung next na pose natin siya, yung next na pose natin is going to be the rising action or napapunta na siya sa ating sa ating maximum peak. And then, babalik siya sa ating ground plane, no? So it's basically a glorified point A to point B na ginawa natin kanina, no? But this time, may pag-mix up na natin lahat sila. Gagamitin natin ang mga pwedeng available tools natin dito, specifically sina scaling, sina movement, and then kung gusto niyo ipa-flip siya, sure, go ahead, no? Pwede niyo gawin 'yon. But we're just gonna make it simple. We're just gonna have it jump up and down, okay? So, yun ang kailangan natin dito. So technically, we need a total of 3 keyframes. So, one is need from the start, and then lastly, papunta dun sa baba. No? So, ang pwede natin unang gawin is we can have our controller, right? Delete naman natin ito. May nadadagdag na, na keyframe. Ano itong keyframe na to? Teka lang. Ano ba itong keyframe na to? Sa annotations ko pala to. Never mind. Delete natin yan. Okay. So, add na muna tayo ng keyframe. No? Now, since dito, hindi pa ako sure kung gaano katagal dapat yung natin dito, yung keyframe natin dito. Kung kunwari, hindi ko pa alam kung gaano katagal dapat yung jumping natin dito, make sure damihan nyo yung frame range nyo para comfortable kayo, no, sa pag-add ng mga keyframes nyo. No? Para madali naman kasi ma-adjust yan sa dulo. Madali naman ma-adjust yan. So, make sure damihan nyo muna yung keyframes nyo before starting to animate. No? Kung let's say, estimate na muna kayo kung sa tingin gaano katagal and then damihan nyo muna. No? So, starting tayo ng 150 frames. And then, gawin natin pala, 151 pala para saktong 150. And then, let's add our keyframes. No? Now, let's make use of yung natin, yung insert keyframes muna natin dito instead of our manual na mga pag-select natin dito para beginner tayo. No? Beginner level muna tayo. So, insert tayo ng keyframes. So, press tayo ng high. And then, location, rotation, and scale. Now, alam natin, yung first frame natin and end frame natin should be the exact same, no? Kasi babalik rin naman siya sa ground level. So, press natin si I, and then location, rotation, and scale ulit. Now, kapag ganito nakikita nyo kay Blender, parang isang dire-diretsong orange line natin dito, it means meron tayong stationary moment of time during that range, no? Kapag yung stationary moment of time na yun, walang nangyayari. Kasi magkaparehong frame lang yung range natin doon. Yung, let's say, starting from that one frame and then to the next frame, kapareho lang yung nangyayari. So, there's just a moment of rest. No? So, meron na tayo dyan, starting frame and end frame, okay na tayo dyan. And then next, let's try to think of kung saang frame natin ilalagay yung next na keyframe natin dito. Now, kasi yung next na frame natin dito is ilalagay natin somewhere sa taas. No? Kasi tumalo na siya, di ba? So, add natin somewhere around here. No? So, alam natin, when we're gonna be adding our we're gonna be adding our jumping motion, yung rising action natin, it should be a lot slower compared to the falling down action. So, knowing yung real world physics natin dito, yung range natin sa papuntang next frame natin dito should be a bit longer, no? Kasi kapag longer yung range natin dito, mas mabagal yung takbo ng speed natin, no? So, yun ang kailangan natin sa rising action natin. Mas mabagal kasi it is jumping. We are applying real-world physics na dito. No? Basically, common sense. Diba? So, let's add, let's say, around frame 59. No? Try natin sa frame 59. Wait, actually, wag pala. Mas mabagal to. Masyadong mabilis pala yun. So, lagay natin siguro dito frame 79. 79. Yan. And then, let's move our location papunta dito. Yan. And then, press natin si I, location, rotation, and scale. Okay. So, yun. Notice nyo, wala na yung red line natin dito kasi may nag-split na into 2 yung ating animation dito. So, try natin yung playback. Tingnan natin. Okay. May jumping action tayo dito. Now, of course, a normal up and down motion na yan. Medyo weird pang tingnan, ano? But don't worry. Ang kailangan mo natin gawin dito is yung mga animation natin dito, yung kung anong kailangan mangyari. Okay lang muna na ganyan siya. We can do our refinements a little bit later. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon is try to add our in-betweens. No? Now, in terms of up and down action, manonovice nyo pa lang, no? as I try to rise up, parang ang bagal ng ano niya, 'di ba? And then pagbaba niya parang bumabagal din siya, no? Which is not normal. Now, hindi mo na natin iayusin 'yon, but roughly ang gagawin niyo dito is try to slow it down as possible, no? Yung change na gagawin natin mamaya dito to make it a little bit more normal is we're gonna do that after the animation is done, no? Parang final touches na lang siya, final refinements na lang. So for now, try to roughly clean it up as possible, yung speed nyo, by simply playing around with your position of keyframes, no? So, siguro ang pwede natin gawin dito, okay na muna ako siguro dito, and then let's play around with our in-betweens. Now, so starting from frame 1 until frame 80, ang gusto kong mangyari dito, I wanted to have a moment, parang stationary moment in time pa dito before it starts to rise up, no? Siguro I want 20 frames siguro. Try natin ilagay dito 20 frames, no? Duplicate natin to, Shift D, and then punta tayo dyan. Now, sa case ni 3ds Max, again, Shift and then drag papunta sa frame na gusto nyo, no? So, I want this. Meron tayong stationary moment in time na nag-rest pa lang siya, and then tatalo na siya. Okay, that looks a lot more normal as a jumping action, no? That looks a lot more normal. So, during this in-between, ang gusto ko nangyayari dito, meron tayong konting squishing action, no? Gusto ko nag-squish siya konti. So siguro, during this range, starting from frame 1 until frame 20, yung frame 20 na yon, yung pinaka-last niya, should be a squish down action, no? So gagawin ko, while still selecting my controller, yung controller lang ina-animate ko, guys, no? Press ko yung scale, and then press ko Z, no? Ilalak ko siya sa Z-axis, and then I'm going to squish it down. So ganyan siguro. And then, add ako ng keyframe I, and then location, rotation, and scale. Now, sa case natin dito, you might want to use auto key for this one. Ako personally, for something like this, hindi na talaga ako nag-auto key. I just use auto key for character animations, no? But for this one, kayo bahala kung anong gusto nyo gamitin. Kung di pa kayo masyadong sanay sa pag gano'n nito, pag nalilimutan nyo mag-add ng keyframe, you might want to use auto key for this one as you're trying to make your in-betweens. But, yun nga, as I said, it's up to you. No? Same goes for 3ds Max users. But, as you can see right here, starting from frame 1 to frame 20, stationary moment in time pa rin tayo. Hindi pa siya tumatalon. It's just squishing down. And then, moving on tayo sa papunta na dito. Ayun, meron tayo, nag-i-scale up na siya. No? It's scaling up. So, that's alright, no? Alright tayo dyan. Ang gusto kong mangyayari, in between frame 20 until the next frame, gusto kong mag-i-stretch up pa siya konti, no? Siguro at around, starting from frame 20 until frame, siguro, frame 50 siguro. Until frame 50, nag-i-stretch siya and then mag-natural siyang babalik dito sa frame 79. So, ang gagawin natin dito, I want to have a keyframe right after yung squish natin dito. Parang ano natin dito, parang diretsong cut na kagad siya into a stretching action para medyo malinis yung mangyayari dito. So gagawin ko, frame 21, lagay ko sa frame 21, Shift D, stationary moment in time. One frame is stationary moment in time. Barely nyo manonotice yan. Ilalagay natin siya dyan. And then, we're gonna be moving on, starting from here, starting from, let's say, actually, wag pa lang wag pala ganito, wag na lang ganito. Try natin, diretso na kagad tayo sa frame 50, only this time, siguro, diretso na natin siyang i-gawing naka-stretch na siya kagad. So, gagawin natin, so, scale na kagad tayo dito. Let's just scale it up, siguro ganyan as much as possible. Try natin. And then location, rotation, and scale, and then let's see how that currently looks. So, squish down. Ayun. There we go. I think that's a much better look, no? What do you guys think? I think that's a much better look, no? So, may konting stretching tayo. Siguro, I think we can try to make it faster pa konti. Huwag natin sa frame 50. I-bump down natin to frame 41 siguro. Try natin. I think that's much better. Parang may konting tayo. Parang soft body action tayo dyan. Yung talagang parang one entity tong burger. I think that's much better, no? So, yon. So if you want to repeat what I just did, so frame 1, mapunta tayong next na frame natin dito is squishing down action and then a stationary moment in time. And then next frame, diretso na mag-ano tayo, mag-i-stretch yung agad sa ano natin. Basically, ilalagay nyo siya dun sa and ano tawag doon yung pinaka-maximum stretch possible na gusto nyo dito sa next frame, no? So after ng squish, ilalagay nyo siya sa next frame nyo and then sa next frame nyo, maximum amount of stretch yung gagawin nyo. And then transition na siya agad papunta dun sa natural scale niya and then babalik na siya pababa. Okay. So dito sa pagbaba natin dito, we can actually extend this pa, no? Actually, we can either extend this or pwedeng pabilisin natin yung pagbaba. So check lang natin. Masyadong mahaba yung ano, yung airtime niya. So siguro i-minimize natin 'to. So ang gagawin natin, paikliin natin 'to, no? So during this action, ang gagawin natin, G natin dito, try natin at 130 siguro. Frame 130. Try natin tingnan ulit. Okay, jumping, konting airtime, and then konting bagsak. I think it could be a little bit faster pa. Siguro mga 5 frames before. Try 125. Try natin. So simply playing around lang kayo dito, no? Try to make it as realistic as possible when it comes to the speed of. Of course, hindi nyo kagad mapa-perfect yan in one go. Always revise and revise lang kayo ng animations nyo. So let's just play it around. I think that's a much more natural, I think. I think we can do 2 more frames ano pa, longer. So 1, 2, okay? Try natin ulit. Ganyan lang mangyayari palagi guys sa animation nyo. Always scrubbing down your timeline and then revisit and revisit. Okay, I think for now that should be a bit okay, no? Babalikan na lang natin 'to mamaya yung sa pagbilis ng drop down action natin dito. Kasi ang gagawin ko pa dito is I want to repeat yung konting squish down pa siya and then magpa-pop up pa siya konti. So ang gagawin ko, so again may stationary moment in time ulit tayo. So shift ano tayo? Siguro let's move on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames. And then I tayo, press tayo ng I, location, rotation, scale. Yung dito natin na gagawin is we want to squish it down a bit, no? Konting squish lang, hindi yung sobrang squish dun sa ano natin, sa unang squish natin dito. Kasi yung nangyayari dito, yung unang squish natin dito, we're exerting force dito sa model natin dito to make it have an action of a jump, no? Kasi yun ang kailangan natin. If we want force to actually make something jump. And then, squish down tayo dyan. Boom. Then, we're gonna have it squish down. Hindi pala ako naglagay ng keyframe. Don't forget to add your keyframe, no? So, S, Z, scale down tayo konti. Parang konting wobble lang. I, location, rotation, scale. So, ayan. Let's try to look at it. Okay, masyadong mabagal. Masyadong mabagal. Pwede natin i-move lang yan. Siguro 1, 2. Try for natin 5 frames. Let's try to look at it. Okay. So I think that's a little bit better na ang gagawin natin. Yung next frame natin, so try natin yung 5 frames din. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add tayo ng S and then Z ulit tayo. This time, konting stretch pataas. Parang konting wobble ba. And then there we go. And then add tayo ng I, location, rotation, and scale. And then let's see how it currently looks. We can easily play around na lang later. Masyadong mabilis. Okay. Okay. Masyadong mabagal. Try natin iusog natin to. Try natin to that way. Then let's have it play. Tingnan lang na natin. I see what's going on. Okay. Siguro, usog natin tong squishing na natin dito. Medyo bilisan natin konti. Try natin yan. Okay. Siguro, what we can do, teka. Okay, so as it lands, gusto ka as it lands, okay, nagkaroon na tayo ng stop tayo dyan. And then, automatic na siya mag-i-squish. I think, babaan ko pa konti yung squish natin dito. Konti pa. Para noticeable. Yan. And then location, rotation, and scale para ma-overwrite. Remember guys, ganun yung gagawin nyo Hindi ko pala na-discuss yun, no? If you're gonna be making some changes, don't forget to overwrite yung yung bagong yung previous keyframe nyo. So if you made some changes to a existing frame, always remember to add a new keyframe para ma-overwrite yung yung previous na keyframe natin. Okay? So squish up, down, papunta down. Ayun. I think that's a much more natural look. Okay, okay. Okay. I think that's much better. And then we can pwede pa natin magawa dito sa banda dulo para eksaktong 5 seconds tayo. Kasi this one is definitely under 5 seconds tayo. So we want to make it 5 seconds at least. No? So siguro try natin. So nag-squish down siya and then nag-wobble. Siguro let's have it, pag-flip natin siya, i-flip natin siya konti. Flip natin siya, mabilis na flip. So press natin si I, location, rotation, and scale para alam natin mag-end siya sa pinakababa so we can have it loop. And then we're basically going to apply the exact same thing as we did. So dito sa natin, let's add a konting jump lang tayo dito. And then add tayo ng keyframe, location, rotation, and scale. And then siguro for this one, rotate natin siya. So let's have it rotate. So R, X. Wait. Ito problem. May konting problem tayo. Masyadong maliit yung spacing na natin. Yung sinet natin dito. So ang pwede natin gawin siguro dito, let's try to ayusin natin to. Oops. Ayusin natin. Taasan natin to konti to try and match yung size natin dito. Okay? So right here, add tayo ng keyframe, location, rotation, and scale. And then we can have it siguro rotate. Wait. Paano natin i-rotate siguro to? Siguro right around... hindi. Right, rotate natin siya ng 180. Saktong 180. Try natin. Location, rotation, scale. Let's see how it currently looks. Okay. May problem. I want it to be a backflip. Okay. So gusto ko backflip yung gagawin niya dito. So negative ang ilalagay ko dito. Negative. Oops, di ko pala na-overwrite. Teka. Overwrite ko lang tong negative. And then location, rotation, and scale. Okay. So, boom. Rotate siya. Okay, may konting problem pa rin. So, double check lang natin. So, boom. Lumagpas siya konti. So, tataasan natin konti yung yung controller natin. So, siguro right around here. Natin. Location, rotation, scale. Try natin. Kasi tatama siya sa tatama yung ulo niya dun sa, tumatama pa rin, no? So, let's simply adjust pa ulit. Konting taasan pa natin. And then, location, rotation, and scale para ma-overwrite. Boom. Okay. Okay, there we go. And then, balik dito sa frame 151. Ilalagay natin dito, since nag-start tayo ng negative 180, hindi natin i-end siya sa 0. Ilalagay natin to negative 360. And then, press natin si location, rotation, and scale. Try natin i-play. Jump. Then falling down. And then backflip. Ayun. So, nagkaroon na tayo ng konting animation, di ba? So, we made use of basically everything we've learned here from basic animation on location, rotation, and scaling with a dynamic model, no? By using a controller as well. So there we go. We have our finished animation. But technically, we have our finished animation. You can stop here if you want, but definitely we can still do a lot more pa dito. No? So for Blender users, I'm gonna give you a little bit of time if you want to copy what I just did, no? Or basically play around with what you have. No? while I'm going to repeat the exact same thing kay 3ds Max. Okay? So for 3ds Max, all right, ulitin natin yon, no? So we're gonna be as quick as possible. Less na tayo sa sa explain. Less na ako sa pag-explain. And I'm just going to basically repeat the exact same animation, no? So, of course, make sure naka-auto key tayo. Definitely, mas maganda mag-auto key tayo dito. So, let's first set our keyframes first. So, set key. And then, punta tayo dito sa frame 150. Set key ulit tayo. And then, saan natin nilagay yung Saan natin nilagay yung yung rising action natin? Frame 79. So, frame 80. No? So, wait, tama ba? 79, and then 78 natin siya ilalagay. Frame 78. And then, we're gonna have it reach yung pinakataas niya. Siguro punta tayo sa front view tayo para madali natin makita. And then, punta tayo sa default shading para makita natin. Yan. Oops. Front view. There we go. Siguro somewhere around here. Taasan natin konti. Yan. And then, yan na. Naka-auto key na tayo, so it's all good, no? Now, if you want to be a little bit more comfortable, guys, sure, you might want to add a set key pa rin, no? Pero kayo bahala. Ako, personally, I just rely on auto key talaga. Kasi malakas talaga to si auto key, no? So, there we go. We have our initial motion. Let's just play it back. Okay, it's jumping, 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 and then falling down. Okay, let's move on to our... If you want to do what I just did, I think dito, alam nyo naman na siguro yan, go to start and go to endpoint. Okay? So, ang ginawa natin next dito is may stationary moment on time tayo. So, frame 1 to frame 20. So, frame 21. Okay. So, frame 20... wait, tama ba? Frame 21? No. Frame 19. Frame 19, it should be a stationary moment in time. So, highlight natin tong first keyframe natin dito. Press and hold shift and then left click, drag it to frame 19 para duplicate natin. Para may stationary moment in time tayo. Remember guys, 3ds Max users, I am controlling yung controller. Yung controller yung ina-animate ko dito. So, gagawin ko sa frame 19, I want it to squish down. So, press ko si R to scale. And then, scale down ko siya sa Z-axis. And remember, squish it as much as you can, as much as possible, no? Or yung as much as burgerly possible, no? Sobrang bad ng word. So, burgerly possible, no? So, let's just squish it down. And then there we go. Remember, I'm auto key, so automatic yung sinasave yung ginagawa ko. So there we go, squishing down. And then siguro, ang next na ginawa natin is we made it stretch up. So gagawin niya, frame 41, doon yung maximum stretch natin. So frame 40 tayo. So maximum stretch na tayo sa frame 40. From frame 40, there we go. So yan. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, stretching up. Let's just see how it currently looks. Playback lang natin to. There we go. Medyo weird pa tingnan, but that's okay. Madali naman natin ma-refine yan. Okay. There we go. So, nag-reach na siya sa maximum peak. Wait. Ito ang problem din natin pala, no? May konting problem tayo dito. So, this one is one of the common problems kay 3ds Max, no? When it comes to auto key. Here's ito na rin yung advice na masasuggest ko sa inyo, no? When it comes to adding your mga key action poses natin dito, sa case natin dito, we have yung nasa ground siya, and then we have our maximum peak, and then we have our ground, yung back to ground floor ulit siya. Now, notice nyo, no? Starting from frame 40 hanggang frame 78, hindi nagbago yung scale natin, no? Hindi nagbago yung scale natin because wala tayong data dito na nagsasabi na okay, nakasave din yung natin dito, yung rotation and scale din natin. So, ang masasuggest sa inyo, when you're gonna be making your key poses first or yung mga talagang important na frames natin dito, make sure na nakaset key kayo, no? So, ang gagawin natin, we're going to basically duplicate na lang tong natin, yung natin dito, yung tawag dito, yung first frame natin dito or yung last frame ko, kayo bahala. And then ililipat natin siya dito sa frame 78. So, delete lang natin to. Hindi. Pwedeng gawin na natin. Actually, wag na pala. Duplicate natin, mas madali na. Mas mahirap na alter rin natin yung scale. Delete lang natin itong nasa frame 78. And then, duplicate natin tong first keyframe natin. So, shift and then drag natin. Papunta tayo sa frame 78. And then, i-change na lang natin yung Z-axis, no? Yan. Z-axis ng location. There we go. Para, ayan, para nakukuha natin yung action na gusto natin. Stretch, back to original scale, and boom, pababa. Okay, so next natin is yung early na drop down natin, no? Early na magda-drop down siya. So anong frame ko siya nilagay? Frame 120. So that is frame 119. So frame 119. 119, okay. Duplicate ko na lang tong final frame ko kasi ganun din naman siya. So shift, left click, papunta ako dito. Okay. So yan, mas napabilis na yung drop down action. Boom, jumping, 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 and boom, drop down. Okay. So next natin is yung squishing down action natin. So yung squish down action natin, ilang frame siya? Wait. Check lang natin. 1, 2, wait. So 120, 3 frames, no? 3 frames. Next, so punta tayo sa 122. So sa 122, we're gonna add a keyframe ulit, no? Para para hindi lang scale yung mare-recognize niya. Just in case na rin to, no? So lagay natin dito keyframe, and then we're gonna have it squish down. So R, squish down natin siya ng konti para may konting bounce. And then punta naman tayo papunta sa ating next na frame, which is frame 123 hanggang 30. So 7 frames. 7 frames tayo. So punta tayong 129. So sa frame 129, add ulit tayo ng keyframe. And then stretch out natin siya ng konti para may konting bounce. And let's see how this currently looks. Okay, jumping, jumping, jumping. Ayun, may konting bounce. There we go. So medyo tayo dito. Medyo iffy yung natin dito, yung jumping action natin dito. Pwede pa natin siguro bagalan. Pwede pa natin bilisan yon. So siguro, highlight ko lang tong dalawa na to and then move ko lang sa maybe 2 frames slow, 2 frames faster. Try natin yan. Try natin play. Ayun. Now, ang lang natin dito, pwede ko pang bagalan yung papunta dito. So try natin 1, 2 frames din. 2 frames faster. Try natin. I think that's much better. Okay, that's much better looking. So, next na natin, ginawa natin last? Backflip, no? So, binackflip natin siya. So, now this one is going to be a little bit tricky, no? So, ginawa natin, ilang frames yung natin? Yung maximum peak. So, 130 to 142. So, 12 frames, no? 12 frames yung natin. So, starting from 128, papunta tayo sa 140. So, tayo? Punta lang tayo sa taas. So, let's just make use of our auto key pa rin, no? So, drag natin papunta taas to. So, pwede natin siguro adjust na lang mamaya. So, right around here siguro. Here should be fine, right? And then auto key tayo. Set key tayo. Now, next ang gagawin natin, no, is a little bit complicated na. So, ginawa natin negative 180, no? So, negative, rotate pala tayo. So, press natin si E. And then, anong axis ba to? Anong axis to? This one is x-axis, okay. So, sa x-axis, type in lang natin negative 180. Remember, naka-auto key ako, Naka-auto key ako, guys. So, yon. So, from 128, nagba-backflip siya. Ang problema lang, ayaw niya ayaw niya sa negative. Try natin. Negative naman tinype ko. Ayaw niya sa negative. Bakit ayaw niya sa negative? Ayaw niya sa negative. Teka. Let's see how can we fix this. Ayaw niya sa negative. Gusto niya ng front flip. Ayaw niya ng back flip. Teka. Ayusin natin to. Alam ko na. Alam ko na pwede natin gawin. So instead of you typing in yung negative 180 natin, let's use our angle snap. Let's get creative, no? Guys, ito na rin, tip ko na rin to sa sa animation for both 3ds Max and Blender users. Once you're playing around with certain sort of motions, sometimes you aside from yung natin, yung pagta-type in natin dito ng ng mga actual values, for Blender definitely yun ang gawin nyo kasi mas more effective yon compared dito kay 3ds Max. But if it's not going your way sa 3ds Max, no? For Blender, parang namali yata ako ng sabi. For Blender, pwede nyo gamitin yung mga values nyo to be as accurate as possible. But for 3ds Max, yun nga, as you can see, ayaw niya mag-backflip. Nilalagay ko na sa negative 180, ayaw niya. So, ang gagawin natin, we can make use of angle snap natin. Now, by default, ang angle snap natin, nakaset siya ng rotation every 5 degrees. So, gagawin natin, we're just going to rotate it papuntang negative 180. We're just gonna manually adjust yung ano natin, yung rotation natin to negative 180. Makikita nyo naman dito sa X na values natin dito, right here, no? So, yun. Ayun, there we go. Nagba-backflip na siya. There we go. Yun, nag-backflip na. So, yun, there we go. So, that's good. So, tingnan lang natin sa front view natin kung hindi ba tumatama ulo niya. Tingnan natin. Okay, backflip, backflip, backflip. Okay, hindi naman tumama yung ulo. Okay, that's good. Now, next, mababago naman tong final frame natin dito kasi hindi na siya, bumabalik siya sa 0 eh. So, we're just going to rotate it negative 360, no? Negative 360. Rotate lang tayo and negative 360. Ayan. So remember, I'm still in auto key. Tingnan natin tingnan natin yung finished product. Jumping. Ayun. Nag-backflip siya. There we go. We have our finished animation, no? So there we go. So if you were following along with me, then congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back. You've got your first animation. You've got a jumping burger. So that's already 5 seconds na rin, no? 150 frames na yan. Now, all that's left is either we can render this out na or we can do our refinements. Kasi there's a lot of refinements that we can do na definitely magpapa-better pa sa animation natin. So, dito tayo sa, turn off na natin yung auto key kasi tapos na tayo sa animation, no? So, when it comes to refinements, ang ginagawa natin dito is mainly we're gonna be altering the speed in between frames, no? So for example, in regards sa frame 0 to frame wag pala dito. Yung jumping action natin dito, no? Starting from frame 38, starting from frame 17 hanggang frame 76, no? Yung rising action natin, if you try to look closely, punta tayo sa front view, no? If you try to look closely, notice nyo yun, parang ang bagal ng talon niya. Parang meron tayong parang konting fallout, no? Before it actually rises, no? Tingnan nyo, may parang slow down motion tayo. Look at it closely. Ayan, no? Parang may slow down motion tayo doon banda, which is not normal. Especially yung dinetermine na natin sa animation natin na maximum force yung ginagawa dito ni Borgar, no? So kapag alam natin, kapag maximum force, dapat dire-diretsong taas na siya kagad. So, what we can do is we can alter the speed of our rising action in between frame 17 and frame 76, no? So, ganun din sa Blender. So, ang gagawin natin is we need to clean up first our animation data. Let's just double check everything. So, gagawin natin dito, magbabawas tayo ng animation data before we start altering the speed para hindi kayo malilito sa sa pag-refine nyo ng animation. Now, double check natin. Starting from frame 0 hanggang frame 17, wala tayo dito? Gumagalaw, alam natin gumagalaw yung kailangan natin yung location natin dito kasi we need it to stay stationary, di ba? And then kailangan din natin ng scale. So, if you look at our keyframe, may rotation tayo dito. So, pwede natin tanggalin yan. So, gagawin natin, select natin yung keyframe natin with an unwanted animation data, which is in this case, yung rotation natin. Right-click tayo, and then, punta tayo sa delete key. Dito sa delete key, manonotice nyo, dito lahat ng mga lahat ng mga data natin dito. Ang tatanggalin natin dito is rotation kasi hindi natin siya gusto. Hindi naman siya nag-rotate, di ba? So, tatanggalin natin siya. Tanggalin natin yon. And if you look closely, nawala na yung rotation data natin dito. Same goes dito sa ating frame 17. No? So, tanggalin lang natin yung rotation and we're good. Now, next dito, pupunta tayo dito. Dito sa frame 38 natin dito, stretching lang naman nangyayari. Hindi natin kailangan yung location data niya tsaka yung rotation data niya kasi meron nang nangyayaring action in between dito. No? It's just an in-between frame. It's just there as a sort of additional action lang na nangyayari in between frame 17 hanggang frame 76. So, in between this action, okay na tayo dito. Now, dito sa frame 76, again, hindi natin kailangan ng rotation. So, pwede natin siya tanggalin. Select natin to. Right-click, delete key, and rotation. Dito naman sa ating pababa. Pababa na tayo dito. Okay, okay pa tayo dito. I think sa case natin dito, in terms of refinement, I don't think we need to change any of this naman. I think it looks a bit good naman na. Pati rin dun sa backflip. So I think we can just leave this as is. Yung mga kailangan lang natin baguhin dito is itong starting actions natin dito. Yung first three na actions natin. Yung rising action and then yung falling down action. No? So I think we're good in this case. No? Okay na tayo dyan? So, good na tayo. No? We can start refining. Now, before we move on to refining, punta muna ako sa Blender. So, for 3ds Max users, are there any questions in regards how to delete yung mga unwanted na animation dito? Any questions? No. Okay. So, move on tayo sa Blender. Now, for Blender, mas madali tayo dyan. Kasi, ang kailangan natin dito, no, naturally, ang tawag natin dito sa process natin dito is accessing our dope sheet. Now, yung dope sheet, doon nakalagay lahat ng mga ano natin, lahat ng mga, tawag natin dito, lahat ng ating mga animation data. Doon natin makikita. Now, normally, sa 3ds Max, dito rin nagagawin yun. Hindi nyo na kailangan i-access yung dope sheet dito sa graph editors and then dito sa dope sheet. Dito nyo makikita lahat yan. But that is a little bit useless na talaga. No? Medyo hindi maganda yung user experience doon, so I don't highly recommend it. Dito nyo nagawin siya sa timeline nyo. Now, for Blender, may dope sheet na rin tayo dito. Pwede natin ma-access yung dope sheet dito. So, click lang natin yung editor and then dope sheet. Now, if you look closely, walang pagkakaiba talaga siya sa timeline. Ang pinaka-ano lang dito sa dope sheet is pinapakita nyo tong summary. No? If you click dito sa gilid, may makikita kayong maliit na arrow dito. Click nyo lang yan and makikita nyo yung summary. And then click lang yung drop down and then you have everything here. But, if you might have already noticed kanina, if I go back to my timeline, meron din siyang ganun. So, punta akong timeline, it's exactly there. No? So, hindi natin kailangan i-access yung dope sheet. Pwedeng diretso na rin sa timeline. No? So, we're gonna stick here with our timeline and then we're gonna open up, select natin yung control natin and then makikita natin dito lahat ng mga animation natin dito. It's here sa object transforms and then there we go. Nandito lahat ng mga animation data natin. Ang dami nating unwanted na data, di ba? Now, notice natin, ang dami. So, kailangan natin tanggalin yung mga rotations natin. So, we're just gonna starting from frame 1 hanggang frame 41, hanggang frame 79 pala, tatanggalin natin yung rotation. No? So, gagawin natin, sa rotations natin, hanapin lang muna natin, para mapadali yung buhay din natin. No? Para hindi natin ma-delete yung mga iba. So, gagawin natin, yung the rest na mga kailangan na muna natin, yung X, Y, Z locations, X, Y, Z scale, i-lock na muna natin siya. Lock, 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 and then X, Y, Z scale, lock, lock, and lock. Para madali natin ma-highlight yung mga kailangan natin i-delete, which is in this case, hanggang frame 79 lang naman. So, select natin yan, and then delete natin. Kasi hindi natin siya kailangan, ba? Delete natin yan. There we go. So, yun. It's still working the exact same way. Nabawasan lang natin. Now, ang pwede nyo pang magawa dito is pwede pa rin natin bawasan itong mga XYZ locations natin, pati yung XYZ scale natin dito. Kasi definitely hindi naman natin nagalaw yung X and Y scale natin, pati rin yung X and Y location natin. Siguro X location pwede pa, and Y location pwede pa. But really, ang ginamit talaga natin dito is yung Z location lang. So, pwede pa natin siyang bawasan. Now, for 3ds Max, pwede na natin gawin yun. But I wouldn't highly suggest it anymore. Kasi medyo delikado na rin yan. No? Medyo delikado territory. Kasi dito rin naman yan. No? So, right-click tayo, delete key, and makikita nyo dito yung mga individual na natin, nakapareho din sa Blender. No? We have X, Y, Z position. Ang nawawala lang dito is yung scale. Nag-iisa lang yung scale dito. Which is you don't want to remove this, lalo na sa animation natin ngayon. Depende na rin yan kapag sa mga animation na ginawa nyo, hindi nyo ginamit yung scale, sure, pwede nyo tanggalin yan. But depende na rin yan, as I said, sa animation na ginawa nyo. Kung tanggalin nyo lang kung hindi nyo kailangan. But in this case, sa 3ds Max, again, I don't highly recommend tanggalin nyo yung mga individual na X, Y, Z position. Kasi, as I said nga, delikado. No? So, let's just leave it at that. Madali rin naman refine pa rin naman yan. Kahit marami-rami pa rin konti yung mga animation data natin dito. But for Blender, recommended talaga. Recommended tanggalin natin lahat yon. And it's much more safer talaga kasi makikita natin ng mano-mano yung animation natin dito eh. No? So, check natin, double check nyo rin din dito sa ano nyo, sa object properties nyo, kung ano yung mga hindi naman talaga nag-aagalaw, no? So as you can see here, no? So starting from frame 0 to frame 20, hindi naman natin ginalaw yung X, Y, and Z natin. Pero really, yung pinaka-motion ng animation natin dito is mainly sa Z-axis lang talaga ng location. So pwede natin, all in all, tanggalin na natin yung X and Y location. So unlock na natin pareho to. And then we're just gonna select X and Y location and then delete. Kasi wala pa rin nangyayari, no? Nothing's happening still. Tingnan natin. Double check lang natin. Oh, wala namang masyadong nangyari, di ba? Nothing happened. So, balik ulit tayo dito. Let's just double check everything. X and Y scale, hindi rin natin kailangan, di ba? So, kasi hindi naman natin siya nagamit. Double check natin sa lahat-lahat. Gumalaw ba yung X and Y scale? Nope, hindi gumalaw, di ba? So, we can remove that as well para hindi natin nagagamit. So, delete natin yan. That just leaves us our X, Y, and Z Euler rotation. Yung rotation natin, double check lang natin, no? Saan ba siya huling gumalaw? Yung ginalaw lang natin dito is yung rotation X. Oh? So we can still remove yung Y and Z rotation natin, no? So let's just lock our X rotation and then delete na natin yung Y and Z rotation. Now that just leaves us with this 3 right here. Ang linis ng tingnan, di ba? Ang linis na. So, mas madali nang ma-refine tayo. And as you can see, nothing changed. No? Kasi yun lang talaga yung tatlong animation data na kailangan natin throughout this animation. Di ba? So, we can start refining na. Now, how do we refine this? Now, before I move on to our refinement, are there any questions in regards to cleaning up your animation data? Are there any questions? Blender users and or 3ds Max users? None. Okay, so one final tip, no? So if you're for 3ds Max users, if you're copying me, no, if you're copying my exact demonstration, pwede niyo lang gawin na rin to, no? Itira niyo lang yung Z location niyo tsaka yung X na rotation niyo all throughout the animation, no? The rest can go away, no? So yan, pwede niyo gawin na rin to. Okay? But of course, kung ginawa niyo yung kung ibang animation yung ginawa niyo, sure. Double check nyo lang kung ano yung mga talagang hindi nyo kailangan. Always scrub down your timeline. Observe nyo yung transform properties nyo. Sa case ng kay 3ds Max, tingnan nyo kung may nangyayari ba dito. No? So double check nyo. Makikita nyo naman yan eh. So tingnan nyo lang. You're just going to play around in between ng mga keyframes natin. So next frame, any change ba na nangyari? Walang nangyari sa sa movement tool. Rotation, walang nangyayari. So double check lang everything. You just ang bad na user experience lang dito is you're gonna have to change in between from location, rotation, and then sa scale to actually see what is happening. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Alright? So, move on na tayo sa refinement ng animation natin dito. Again, ang kailangan nating i-refine dito is frame 20 hanggang frame 79. Basically, yung rising action natin. So sa case naman dito kay 3ds Max is going to be frame 17 hanggang frame 76. Okay? So let's do that. Now to do that, sa Blender, we need to open another separate na window. No? So we need to another viewport. So right-click tayo sa gilid. Right-click tayo sa gilid and then gawa tayo ng vertical split para nakaseparate, meron tayong timeline pa rin and we have yung gagamitin natin. So dito, click natin yung editor type natin dito sa right side and then let's open up our graph editor. Now, itong graph editor, manonotice nyo, bakit may math tayo dito, but may graph tayo dito. Now, don't worry, this is not mathematical. This is mainly for the speed, no? Yung action ng speed ng mga in-between ng mga frames. So, manonotice nyo, yan yung nangyayari, no? Yan yung nangyayari dyan. So, ang reason kung bakit sa, in regards sa frame 20, nagbabagal siya bago it reaches its maximum speed papataas, manonotice nyo dito sa graph, pa-curve siya, no? Pa-curve siya, nagde-dip down muna siya before it rises up. So, yun yung reason kung bakit nagbabagal siya. So, we don't want that, right? No? Kailangan natin, diretso kagad siyang talon. So, we need this portion right here, no? This portion right here before it reaches yung yung top peak natin dito, we need it to be straight line para yung mangyayari dyan, dire-diretso siyang tataas. Which is, natural for a jumping motion. No? So, no, take note lang natin siya from frame 20 hanggang frame 8, frame 79. No? So, let's try to adjust this one. Lakayan natin to. And then, let's move to our Z location. Yung Z location lang naman yung i-change natin dito. No? So, ma-notice natin dito. So, if I try to select our frame 20, there we go. Nandito siya. No? So, select na natin yung Z location and then frame 20. Okay, so dito na siya, no? This is our frame 20. So we need to unlock this one first. Unlock natin yan para ma-access natin siya. No? Now, ilalock nyo lang lahat muna yung mga hindi nyo muna i-edit. No? So, lock natin lahat yan. And then let's just leave the location as the only one unlocked. And then sa frame 20, select natin to right here. No? So if I try to zoom in, may makikita kayo dito na parang Bezier curve. No? Notice yan, wag niyong sabihin na wala yan. Always meron yan, no? So, ay notice yan, very subtle lang siya, may mga points siya doon. Select nyo lang yan. And then, makikita nyo dito, magka-highlight siya dito. And then, select nyo lang yung mga curve natin dito. And then, you can easily play around with the speed of your motion, no? Now, ang gagawin lang naman natin dito is we want to make it straight. Now, to make this one straight, gagawin lang natin is we just need to move it papunta dito sa pinaka-point natin dito. So, ang gagawin natin, instead of using our mouse, saselect natin itong curve natin dito, itong dot natin dito that handles the Bezier curve. Press natin si G to move. No? So, you can use yung ano nga natin, yung movement tool mo dito. And then, we're gonna lock it sa x-axis natin kasi ito yung x-axis, ito yung y-axis. No? So, we need it to lock sa x-axis. So, press natin si X while move is active. And then, we just need to put it right here, no? Diretso sa frame 20 or somewhere near frame 20. I would highly suggest diretso sa frame 20, just somewhere near. Para in case na gusto mong i-edit ulit, masaselect mo pa rin siya. Hindi kayo mahihirapan na i-select siya ulit. So somewhere right here. So there we go. And notice nyo, straight line na siya. And tama na yung curve natin dito. Tama na yung pag-bounce siya. Kasi yung nangyayari natin dito, straight line, straight line, straight line, diretso pataas siya. Okay lang na may curve tayo dito because definitely as we try to reach our maximum peak, as we jump, magkakaroon tayo ng konting slowdown or yung tinatawag natin na air time. That's because of gravity, di ba? So okay lang tayo na may curve tayo dito. No? So let's try to play it back. Let's see how it currently looks. Ayun, no? Diretso na yung takbo niya. Now, ang ano na lang natin dito, we can even play around din dito sa scale natin. Kasi sa scale natin, as you can see here, starting from frame 20 hanggang frame 41, medyo weird din siya. Medyo weird din siyang tingnan kasi may slowdown nangyayari. Pwedeng diretso na rin tayo dyan, no? Pwedeng diretso na rin yung lagay gawin natin dito sa frame frame 20, no? From frame 20, so i-straighten din natin yan. No? So scroll zoom in tayo dyan by using our scroll wheel. Select ulit natin yan. And then lock muna natin yung Z location and unlock natin yung scale. And then let's just select our yung Z scale natin dito and we're gonna do the exact same thing. So G and then lock it to X and then place it somewhere near our 20th frame. And then let's just play it back. Tingnan natin kung ano yung tsura. Ayun. Much more cleaner yung pag-squish down niya. Ayun, no? There we go. Much more cleaner. All right. So that's how it works. Now, next natin, balik ulit tayo sa Z location. No? Kasi hindi pa tayo tapos. Kasi meron pa tayong falling action. No? So sa falling action, again, hindi natin kailangan mag-slow down siya. No? That's not how this works. Not unless may gravity involved dun sa environment. May zero grav na nangyayari kayo. No? But yun nga, since we're working at a normal gravity sa animation natin dito, we need to have our falling down action to be straight down. No? Now, okay lang rin, starting from frame 79, yung initial na start natin ng falling action natin dito, may curve kasi, yun nga, may konting airtime pa rin tayo. No? Not unless kung gusto nyo lagyan pa ng konting straight dito, that's completely fine too. But for this one, I'm not gonna do that. No? Lalagay ko lang siya diretso sa ating last frame, which is going to be at frame 120 ba? 120 ba to? Double check. Yep, frame 120. Yep, frame 120. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. And then, lagyan natin dito. and then press natin si G, and then X. And then diretso lang tayo papunta dito, and then have it placed near dun sa frame 120 natin, but not fully. And then let's just see how it currently looks. Dire-diretso na ba yung bagsak niya? Ayun, dire-diretso yung bagsak niya. Medyo mabagal lang yung ano natin, yung takbo ng ating animation. No? Siguro, pwede nyo pang bagalan yan, pwede nyo pang bilisan pa pala, no? We're just gonna adjust things, no? So, it's up to you, no? But definitely, for a jumping motion, okay na rin naman na to. Medyo irregular pa konti, no? Konting adjustment pa tayo sa keyframing natin, but for a 5-second na jumping animation, okay na to, no? Medyo, ano lang siya, medyo, I think, medyo floaty siguro natin. Isipin natin na medyo floaty tong burger model. But, if you're gonna think that the model should have a little bit more weight, no? So definitely babagalan niyo to. Bibilisan niyo yung animation niyo dito by simply selecting everything around here and then moving it backward pa, no? So that's basically it. Okay? And then of course, when you're gonna move things, don't forget to unlock everything para lahat naka-select, no? So scrub down lang natin diyan, try natin tingnan how it currently looks. Medyo pa, pwede pa natin bagalan dito sa part natin dito eh. Yung sa falling down action, pwede pa natin bilisan pala. So, it's up to you kung paano final touches na gagawin niyo. But for now, I'm going to be satisfied with this one for Blender. And that's about it when it comes to refinement sa Blender. Okay? Now, meron pa akong gusto pang i-discuss, but I think gagawin ko na lang siya sa ating next meeting, which is going to be about interpolation. Now, for interpolation, it's literally, ganito lang rin naman yon. It's basically simply playing around with the graph, graph editor. But there's, meron pa siyang mga additional na options. Tingnan nyo, makikita nyo, if I press T, may makikita kayo dito mga interpolations. Now, itong mga lines natin dito, these are already presets, no? Yung mga presets na mga line curves na pwede nyo gamitin. But ako personally, I don't really rely on this much, not unless kailangan ko. Kasi for me, my own personal touch is what I want pa dito sa mga graph natin dito. So, it's up to you muna. No? Ako personally, di ko muna i-discuss yan. Next meeting ko na siya i-discuss with the basic of a bouncing ball. No? Gagawa muna tayo ng basic na bouncing ball. So, for now, stick muna tayo sa manual na pag-adjust natin ng curves. Okay? So, Blender users, before I move on to 3ds Max's version ng graph editor, are there any questions? Don't worry, after that, ano na tayo? Save na natin yung animations natin. Any questions? Any questions? Kunti na lang. Any questions, guys? None. Okay. So let's move on to our 3ds Max. So while I'm working on with 3ds Max, Blender users, go ahead and refine your animations before we try and save them. Okay? So let's say nakaano na tayo dito, no? As I said, okay lang rin naman na may tayo dito, na may konting additional data pa tayo dito. We can easily do what we did naman dun sa Blender na sa-select lang natin yung mga yung mga additional na items natin dito, no? So, gagawin natin sa 3ds Max, punta tayo sa Graph Editors. Graph Editors, and then punta tayo sa Track View - Curve Editor. That is our Graph Editor. And as you can see right here, it's literally the exact same. Now, ito lang ayaw ko kay 3ds Max eh. Kasi hindi natin, if you don't have a second monitor, medyo masakit sa ulong, medyo masakit sa ulo gawin, no? So, ang gawin natin is, let's just take note of what we need to change. So, starting from frame 17 hanggang frame 76. So, frame 17, select lang natin yung Z position muna natin. So, ayan, no? Notice nyo, if I just selected yung certain na animation data, yun lang yung kukunin niya, no? And okay lang rin naman dito kasi ito, X and Y na X and Y na data natin dito, wala naman nagpapakita kasi wala naman nangyayari. So yung Z position lang yung makikita talaga natin dito. So it's all good naman. So starting at frame 17, let's just try to find it. Ito na siya, no? So frame 17, okay, it's this one right here, no? So there, ganun lang rin siya, no? Ito rin ang ayaw ko kay 3ds Max. Ang hirap i-zoom. Ang hirap i-zoom. You need to really maximize your screen if you want to see some movement. And then, unlike din sa Blender, where we can use yung movement tools, unfortunately, mano-mano natin igagalawin yung Bezier curves natin. As you can see right here. Madali naman sila mapansin, unlike kay kay Blender kasi kakulay siya ng ano natin, ng curve natin dito. So once we select our keyframe, makikita niyo na siya agad. No? Ayan, there we go. So there's our Bezier curve. And then let's just slowly move it papunta sa keyframe natin, but not fully dun sa keyframe natin. No? So just try to make it as straight as possible. There we go. Konti pa tayong adjust konti. Siguro gawin nyo, minimize natin. And ano natin to, ayusin lang natin. Layo muna natin tong curve, yung timeline natin. Ito rin ang ayaw ko kay 3ds Max. Ang sakit sa ulo nitong yellow bar na to, no? So yun, there we go. As you can see, ito na siya, no? So ayusin lang natin. Let's just try to keep it in the black line, but not too, yung just close lang dun sa frame 20 natin, no? Para maselect pa rin natin in case na gusto natin i-change. And then, select din natin dito sa final frame natin dito, which is going to be our last one. Select natin to. We just make it straight as possible, but not too close dun sa ano natin. Keyframe natin. Okay, that should be good, no? And then, let's just play it around. Let's tingnan natin kung ano itsura. Ayan, no? Dire-diretso yung taas niya. Now, we just need to play around with our scale. So, ito naman yung problem ko rin sa scale, no? Now, currently, dito, wala tayong problem, no? Wala tayong problem sa scale natin dito, but, notice nyo, meron din tayong mga green lines natin dito. So, that is our Y rotation, no? Dito sa, yung hindi pala yung Y rotation, yung Y scale natin dito. Dito tayo magkaka-problem ngayon. Kasi, wala tayong individual na mga, scaling natin. Wala tayong X, Y, and Z scale. We just have scale, no? So, it sucks. I really hate it so bad. So, kapag, let's say na marami kayong mga X, Y, and Z na scale, good luck. Good luck hanapin yon. But don't worry naman, may naman siya, color coding naman siya, as you can see right here. Kapag may red, kapag nag-scale kayo sa x-axis, red naman yung kulay niya. Kapag Z naman yung natin, blue yung makikita natin. As you can see right here, no? Now, ito, makikita natin yung green line natin dito. That's just our Y na scaling, no? So, since nandiyan sa gitna lang siya, hindi ba lang nangyayari, no? So, Z lang yung magagalaw natin. So, ang kailangan natin dito is, anong frame yun? Frame 17 hanggang 38. So, is this... Okay, ito 17, no? So, yung 17, this one right here, kailangan natin straight din siya. Ayoko talaga tong graph editor dito. Ang sakit sa ulo. Ang liit, no? So, just make it as straight as possible. Yan. Ayun, sobrang ang liit. Ang liit naman kasi I hate it so much, no? But yeah, it's still doable naman. Medyo bad lang yung user experience, no? So yan, there we go. At least na-adjust naman na natin. So, there we go. Okay, it's doing that. And there we go. Ayun. We have our complete animation na din, no? Of course, you can do some refinements pa, no? Pwede nyo pang bilisan pa yung motion natin dito. Kasi definitely, it looks a little bit floaty, di ba? Medyo floaty pa rin siya. But, yun nga, pwede naman sigurong, it's filled with hot air naman siya siguro, no? So, okay naman na yan. Based na yan sa interpretation nyo na lang sa caption nyo, sa description nyo sa YouTube video or whatever. But, for your first animation, I think, we did a pretty good job with this one if you followed along. No? So, that's about it. That's about it for our demo. No? So, ang tanong ko na lang, did you follow along with me or did you make your first animation na ba? What are your thoughts? No? So, quick muna tayo, check up na muna tayo. Kamusta yung first animation nyo? Did you follow along ba? Ano yung sa tingin nyo naging challenges nyo ngayon if you followed along? I just want to hear your thoughts. Kahit ilan lang. Before we save our render, no? Before we do our renders pala, which is the hardest part really, no? Mas mahirap pa yung rendering kaysa sa mismong animation part, trust me. So, anyone, may nag-follow along ba? Wala? Ano yung tingin niyo yung nahihirapan kayo? Wasn't able to follow, but everything seems clear and it's really very excited to actually do the activity. Definitely, yung activity natin madali lang rin naman because you're literally gonna be using this exact model. Kayo bahala lang kung ano sa tingin, kung paano gagawin nyo yung animation nyo dito. Siguro, ang naiisip ko, pwede nyo pang magawa dito. Siguro, instead of yung yung stretching yung squashing down natin dito, hindi pala yung squashing down, yung stretching up pala natin dito. Siguro, pwede nyo gawin, as it jumps down, siguro mauuna yung top bar nyo and then susunod-sunod yung mga parts natin dito. Kasi, yun nga, they can still move on its own pa rin, no? They have their own animation data pa rin. Pwede nyo pang gawin yun, no? So, ayun, that's another input that you might want to do, no? Instead of stretching up, instead of na parang one full entity siya, no? It has its own parts, no? A little bit morbid, but yeah, you get the point, right? So, anyone else? Anyone else? Wala na? Wala bang nag-follow along? Are there any concerns ba na sa tingin nyo magiging challenges nyo dito? Anyone? 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 Medyo info overload po. pero carry naman po. Siguro pag i-watch mo recording, sir. Yeah, don't worry, magigets nyo rin yan. If you're still a little bit confused pa ko sa animation, trust me, it's easy naman talaga, no? Just simply playing around with basta alam nyo yung standard na controls, you're gonna get it. So don't worry naman. Sir, may I ask po if the recording will be uploaded? Yes, the recording will be uploaded sa Big Sky, no? Ilalagay ko sa Big Sky yan and then ipopost ko agad din sa Discord server, no? Sa chat natin and then you'll see it there, no? Yes, Julian. Yes, Julian.
This was still for Blender. I just didn't get to ask during that time. Then there was like the section where you animate. Because for me, like you could see the summary, like on the very left, summary controller, and then like there are like two drop downs basically. For me, it was only the controller. There was no summary and then the other stuff. How did I get that?
Meron bang naka-search dito? Did you
Yeah.
perhaps type?
No.
Did you perhaps type something? Nothing?
No. Yeah.
Can you take a screenshot of it and then post mo sa Discord so I can see?
Oh, okay. But yeah, cause like okay, now it disappeared. But yeah, okay, I will. Oh, okay. Never mind. I just figured it out. Okay, sorry.
Okay,
yeah, I just figured it out when. Yeah,
sorry,
sir.
Okay, that's fine. That's
the
fine.
way you
That's
moved
fine.
it. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Did you make sure that of course naka-select yung mismong object nyo to see their individual animation data. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir. Sorry.
All right. Sir, may mga parts lang po na naglalag kaya baka may na-miss pa. Don't worry. Ganun nakano ko pala kayo sa school, no? So, would be nice din kung tingnan nyo kung kaya nyo kung kaya nyo magawa sa lab din natin yan, no? Or if you're not using the lab, sure, go ahead, try nyo lang rin, no? So, anyone else? None? No more questions? No other input? Okay, if there are no more other inputs, let's try to save our render, no? So, of course, pagandahin na muna natin. Let's make a basic na platform na lang siguro. Let's just add mabalik ako lang po sa yung recording. Don't worry, okay lang rin yan. So, ano ba pwede natin gawin dito? Let's just have it jump in heaven. Add na lang ng HDRI. Add na lang ng HDRI. Alam ko meron naman ako ditong HDRI. Let's use that one. And then, of course, let's switch to cycles para maganda yung render natin. Of course, make sure na GPU ang gamit nyo para mabilis din. And then, don't forget, both sa viewport and sa render. Then, let's try to see how it currently looks. Okay, let's add siguro a plane, no? Let's add a shadow catcher. Add tayo ng shadow catcher, visibility, where is it? Shadow catcher, and then turn off our glossy. There we go. So, parang sad tingnan ng burger natin nag-iisa sa langit. Okay, so let's just set up our camera. Now, for 3ds Max users, you know what to do na rin. Basically, nag-a-add na tayo ng additional touches natin dito. And then, trying to make it as beautiful as possible, no? So, let's just try to play around. Wait, of course, don't forget, set your, Siguro nakaano na ako dito, no? I think settled na ako sa square resolution format ko rin dito. Tingnan lang rin natin para if kuha ba siya ng buong ano natin. Turn off ko lang to. Let's just zoom out. Tingnan natin kung kuha ba siya. Okay, kuha siya. I think we can make do with this. Tingnan natin. I think we can still zoom in pa. Okay, I think that's good. Okay na yan. All right. So let's make do with this one. Let's just do a test render. Ito rin. Once you're gonna be rendering your animation, guys, don't render it straight up as an animation. Render it nyo muna as a standard na image lang. Ano? So sa case ng 3ds Max, just render it muna sa render view and then tingnan nyo kung timingin nyo. No? Timingin nyo kung gaano katagal yung render nyo. No? So for me, this shouldn't take a while. It should, wait. Don't forget, naka-turn off pala yung cube ko. Okay, let's just turn that off. Okay, there we go. So, there we go. It only took a second for me. No? But then again, it is super simple scene lang naman. No, depende rin 'yan sa kung sa inyo. I want you guys to take note kung gaano katagal yung render nyo because remember, we're dealing with multiple frames na, no? So, isipin niyo 'yon. Now, currently okay lang ako, 1 second lang ako per frame, no? So, 1 second times 150, that's 150 seconds. That's more or less 2.5 minutes, no? More or less. So, if sa ano nyo, sa mga magiging final animations nyo or sa mga magiging renders ng animation, it takes a while for 1 frame to render, you should already consider trying to minimize what you have dun sa scene nyo. Either bawasan nyo yung mga hindi naman nakikita na objects dun, siguro babaan nyo yung level of detail, or babaan nyo yung kung ano yung meron kayo sa scene nyo as much as possible. Basically, you're gonna apply everything that we have learned all throughout sa rendering activities natin noon, yung mga still frame natin dito. How can we make our renders as fast as possible? Play around with your samples, no? Play around with your resolution. Kaya, we're trying to play around first with a low resolution. Kasi, if I try to switch over to 1080, definitely, bibilis yan, no? So, from 640 by 640, 1 second lang. Tingnan natin gaano katagal to with 1080 by 1080. It takes 2 seconds. It's still as fast as, it's still as fast. But then again, mine is a really strong computer, so take note then, no? So for now, let's make use of this one, and then let's try to render this out. I'm gonna be using 1080 by 1080. Kayo bahala kung anong gusto nyong resolution ang gagawin nyo. So, it's up to you. So, gagawin natin, okay na tayo sa frame range and then frame na end natin. And then punta tayo dito sa my output. Remember, I'm in output properties. And then dito sa output, select your folder right here. Basically, dito, ang ilalagay nyo dito is, of course, you need to create your own project folder. Ganito na rin yung process nyo sa ano nyo. Sa, tawag dito, sa finals nyo, no? Create your project folder na. No? So in this case, ito na rin yung project folder ko. And then, let's say you have multiple folders here. Once you're gonna be rendering your animations, make sure to put them in one folder, no? So for example, if you're gonna be working on multiple shots, siguro sa case natin dito, animation sequences, ilalagay nyo dito kung anong shots yung ilan, no? Like for example, meron kayong shot 1, meron kayong shot 2, and then siguro sa case natin dito, let's make shot 3. So shot 3 natin, dito ko ilalagay yung current render ko. Of course, depende na rin yan sa paano naming system nyo gagawin dyan. Like for example, kung may separate scene kayo, for example, meron kayong starting scene, climax scene, etc., kayo bahala. Basta, make it organized, no? Kasi, nakasalalay dyan yung image sequence nyo because we're gonna be rendering it as an image sequence. So, lagay ko na siya dito, shot 3. And then, I'm going to rename it shot 3 para may organization tayo sa file name, no? Na alam natin na yung image sequence natin dito will start with shot 3 as their file name. And then, accept. Okay na tayo dyan. Now, next. Again, we are going to be rendering this one in a image sequence. So either PNG or JPEG, no? Now, for Blender and 3ds Max, while yes, pwede nyo gamitin yan as pwede nyo idiretso na as a, diretso na as a video form, video file, I do not highly recommend it. Kasi, again, hindi natin ma-foresee na may occasional na, na biglang magka-crash yung computer nyo. We don't want that to happen. No? Of course, we don't want that to happen. So, masasuggest ko talaga, render it as an image sequence. Kasi for example, during your render, like for example, you're rendering your full animation na and then biglang nag-crash midway yung ano nyo, yung render nyo. But as you can see, since image sequence yung ginawa nyo, na-render, let's for example, na-render niya out is out of 1,000 frames, na-render niya kagad 200 frames. No? Na-render niya yung 200 frames nyo. And after nun, nag-crash siya bigla. Hindi kayo mawawalan ng progress because you can still continue yung render nyo. You just need to change yung frame start nyo tsaka yung frame end nyo. So, for example, yung sa example ko, nag-start ka from frame 1, nag-end siya frame 200. Nag-crash na kasi after doon. So, let's say yung frame 1 to frame 200 na yon, fully finished na yung render nun. So, bali, ang magiging next na frame mo is 201 and onwards. So, ang gagawin mo, babaguhin mo lang yung frame start mo, gagawin mo 201, and then yung frame end mo is kung ano yung original na frame end mo. No? So, basically, the process that we're doing there is called rendering in batches. Magre-render kayo in batches. Maganda rin tong practice if you're gonna have a very long animation. No? For example, definitely hindi naman ito lang yung subject nyo. No? Definitely gagamitin nyo rin yung computer nyo for other things. For example, yun nga, you have a total of 15 seconds dun sa final animation nyo. And yun nga, marami rin kayong finals sa ibang subject. Why not schedule yung render nyo? Like for example, you have a total of 1 week to render things. No? So let's say you have 7 days. And then you have a total of 450 frames. No? So render out kayo ng mga ilang batches. No? So ano ba pwedeng gawin natin? Siguro, so total 6 days lang yun, 7 days. So per day, you're gonna render out 60 frames, no? So 60 times 7, that is 420, no? Siguro by the 7th day, damihan nyo na agad, finishing na yon, no? So let's say by day 1, starting from frame 1 hanggang frame 60, yon, i-render out nyo yun, and then continue on sa work sa ibang subject. Day 2, frame 61 until frame 120, and then so on and so forth. Ganun lang yon. Ganun lang yung process natin para mas malinis, mas ma-safe yung pag-render nyo. Kasi, at the end of the day, they are still an image sequence. Madadala nyo pa rin yan sa video editing software nyo. Basta, consistent yung naming system nyo. Kung SHA-3 yung naming system nyo, edi SHA-3 pa rin all throughout. No? If you're gonna be rendering in batches. Okay? And then, of course, kung wala kayong editing software, later, after we save our render here, may gagawin pa tayo sa Blender na kung wala kayong editing software, pero may Blender kayo, pwede yung daan na lang dito sa Blender and then save your image sequence as a video already. So, before we do that, save na tayo, no? So, here we go. I'm just gonna have it remain at PNG and then okay na tayo dyan. PNG tayo dyan or JPEG, again, kayo bahala. So, okay na tayo dyan and then punta na ako sa render and then render animation. But before you do that, make sure na naka-solid mode kayo para mas mapabilis yung render nyo. Ako, no problem ako punta ako sa render kasi mabilis yung computer ko. So, render, and then render animation. And then it should save dun sa natin, sa ating project folder. And then yun nga, it's gonna be as fast as that, no? And remember, I'm still working at 20 frames, no? So while that's rendering, that should take 300 seconds. So that's like, what? A couple minutes. So, tayo lang natin matapos yan. Dito tayo sa 3ds Max. And then let's set up our render. No? So tingnan lang muna natin kung gaano katagal yung render natin. Wait, wala pa tayong lighting. No? So let's add a lighting. And of course, let's add a camera. No? So add tayo ng camera. And then, tingnan natin kung ano itsura niya. So let's see that. 640 by 640 ang gamit natin, di ba? So let's just wait for it to run. Okay, there we go. And then tingnan lang natin hanggang saan yung niya. Makikita ba ng camera? Okay, pwede pa natin i-zoom out konti yung FOV natin. Okay, zoom out pa natin. Okay, I think that should be good. And then, boom, boom, boom. Okay, backflip. Okay. And then, add tayo ng HDRI. Gamitin natin yung exact same HDRI. And then, iba naman, bitmap. Bitmap. Click natin okay. Hanap lang tayo ng HDRI natin. Walang lumabas na Bitmap. Okay. Hanap lang tayo ng HDRI ko. No, HDRI. Wala na bang HDRI? Ito na lang. That's real sunset. Okay. And okay. Okay lang tayo dyan. And then let's just double check our render again. Ay, ito rin pala yung HDRI ko. Ito lang rin pala, hindi ko naman pansin. And then let's see how long it should take to render. Okay lang natin. Again guys, if you're using 3ds Max, CPU or GPU, depende na rin yan sa computer nyo kung ano yung kakayanin. Ay, wait, ayusin ko pa tong camera angle ko. Kala. Konting finishing touches lang tayo. Nakita ko na OCD din ako konti. Huh? There we go. Okay, that should be good. Okay, that should be good enough. Okay, ano tayo dyan? Should be more or less, ano tayo dito? Di ko nakita. Gano'n kabilis? 2 seconds din, no? So 2 seconds din. But then, ano na rin, 640 by 640 to. So palitan na rin natin siya sa render setup. Render setup na tayo. Palitan natin siya to 1080 by 1080. 1080 by 1080. Yikes. Lakas na ng fan ko. 83 degrees na yung CPU ko. Okay, 1080 by 1080. Now, dito tayo sa render setup natin. Again, hindi na natin gagamitin si Arnold Render View. Gagamitin natin dito si ating dito, render setup, si production rendering mode. And then of course, play around with your Arnold render and whatever. Of course, sample count. But then again, good luck, no? But then again, kung hindi nyo maalis yan, if you have a working GPU naman sa computer nyo, we can just simply turn on yung sa Arnold render view natin. Punta tayo dito sa settings, no? And then punta tayo sa post-processing, add tayo dito, and then let's add denoiser optics na kagad. No? Para automatic na rin naman yan, gagamitin niya yan, no? So, extra tayo dyan, no? Okay na rin tayo dyan. Punta tayo dito sa common parameters. Dati ginagawa natin, nandito tayo sa single because we're just rendering one single frame, no? What we want, punta tayo dito sa range. Now, dito sa range, dito nyo itatype yung, yung starting frame nyo and then yung end frame mo. So, in this case, 150 yung lalagay natin dito kasi yun yung final frame natin, no? So, punta tayo dito. Ayan, notice nyo, frame 150. So, dito natin lalagay yan. So, same concept lang rin to sa Blender when you're gonna be rendering in batches, no? So 0 to 150, no? Starting frame and then end frame nyo. Okay? And then, of course, yung output size nyo or whatever, everything that you need to do here, dito nyo na ilalagay. And then, once you're gonna start rendering na, click nyo lang tong save file. Save file. And then, punta tayo sa kung saan yung project folder nyo. In this case, dito tayo. And then, animation sequence. Gawa ko ng bagong folder. Shot 4. And then, open ko to. And then, of course, file name. Shot 4 rin tayo. Make it organized, no? Ipangalan nyo yung file name nyo kung ano yung pangalan ng folder nyo para organize kayo. Okay? And then, save tayo. Wait. Before you save as type tayo. Change natin siya from JPEG ngayon. Kasi, remember, if we save this as PNG, hindi mababasa yung HDRI natin. So, JPEG tayo. So, click tayo JPEG and then save natin yan. Okay? And then click natin si OK. Now, may nalimutan ako, mag-add tayo ng shadow catcher. Mabilisan na shadow catcher. So, add lang tayo dito. Lagyan natin Arnold's properties. Add tayo ng shadows. Tanggal lang self-shadows. Punta tayo sa material editor. Add tayo ng shadow. Itong matte shadow. And then, shadow matte. And then, kabit lang natin to dito. And then, lagay natin tong matte shadow map natin as our shadow catcher. And this one, yung diffuse intensity natin. Hindi pala, wag diffuse intensity. Yung shadow color pala natin dito. Wait. Intensity dito. Max natin to 1 na lang. Okay? And then, try natin i-render muna kung gaano kabilis. With shadow catcher on. And with 1080 by 1080. I'm using my GPU na dito, yikes. 1080 by 1080 na to, Oh my God, 3ds Max talaga. Sobrang bigat sa CPU. Nadadamay pa tong Blender render ko tuloy. Nadadamay pa to yung render ko sa Blender. Di pa rin tapos ay frame 120. Nadamay na tuloy. Okay. So, GPU heavy na to, no? Guys, don't do this, ha? Don't do what I'm doing na 2 consecutive renders ang ginagawa ko. Do not do this, no? Mamamatay computer nyo. So, kapag confident lang kayo sa computer nyo, sure, go ahead. Ako confident ako kaya okay pa ako dito. Pero di ako confident sa CPU kasi nagiinit na. 90 degrees na. Okay. So rendering, render setup, and then click na lang tayo sa render. No? So it's just going to render out, but I'm going to wait for my Blender render to finish na lang muna before I start rendering dun sa sa 3ds Max. So na lang, 15 more frames, no? So 30 more seconds. And nag-bump up na siya to 3 seconds, oh. 2.96 na. So, dahil nag-simultaneous na yung gamit ko dito. Ano na ba yung temperature ng GPU ko? Teka, anong temp na ba? Anong temp ng GPU ko? Ayan, no? You can see, ayan, no? CPU ko 87 degrees na, GPU ko 65, naka-aircon na out lahat. So, be wary na lang kayo, guys, no? Ano na rin to? Warning na rin to for your activities onward ngayon, pati rin yung finals. Make sure to have your computer be as cool as possible. Tapat niyo yung electric fan nyo, magbukas kayo ng aircon as you render your batches, no? Ito na to, 3090 na ako lahat. Naka-water cool na rin to. So, ang bigat. 3ds Max na to. 3ds Max ang problema kasi. Na joke. Basta, be careful na lang, no? Okay. So frame 151, okay, tapos na yung render ko dito. Let's start our render with this one as well. And then just let it render. No? Mabilis na rin naman yan. So, ayan, mabilis na rin. And then, okay na tayo, no? So buksan lang natin yung project folder natin. Project folder, saan na yun? Okay, nandito na siya, no? Animation sequences, shot 3. Nandito na lahat yan. Ayan, no? We try to open up one. And then as we try to browse through, ayan. So there's our image sequence. Okay. Now, pwede tapos na kayo dyan eh. Pwede lumipat na kayo sa video editor nyo. Pwede lumipat na kayo sa Premiere or sa After Effects. Kayo bahala. Kasi, I don't think I need to explain how to import an image sequence. Naturo naman na siguro sa inyo yan. So, i-import nyo lang to as an image sequence. Automatic na i-convert ng ng Premiere yung image sequence nyo into a video. But, let's say, wala kayong Premiere, no? You just want to convert this one into a video, which I highly recommend na rin, no? Mas maganda rin yung magiging yung process nyo dito, no? So ang gagawin, no? Kung pwedeng gamitin natin si Blender, no? So let's just save this one. Let's just save this one. Gamitin lang natin dito sa ko ba nilagay ito? Quick render gallery na lang. Ayan, gamitin ito. Borgard 2. Ayan. Sobrang generic. Okay. So gawa tayo ng panibagong file and then let's convert our image sequence into a working MP4 file. So gagawin natin, papalitan natin yung editor type natin dito. Now for 3ds Max users, ganito na rin pwede nyo gawin dito, no? Pwede nyo gamitin Blender as a working compiler ng image sequence. So punta tayo editor type and then change natin siya to sa dito, video sequencer. So video sequencer, ito siya, no? Dito sa top left corner, editor type, then video sequencer. Now, before you upload your image sequence dito, you need to take note a couple of things, no? So ito yung lista lang natin yung mga kailangan natin tandaan. So kailangan niyo first is yung frame rate of your render. Next, starting and ending frame numbers. And lastly is resolution. So yan ang tatlong kailangan yon tandaan. Frame rate ng render nyo, starting and ending frame numbers, and yung resolution para mabasa properly ni Blender. So gamitin na natin dito yung shot tree natin dito. Madali nyo naman makikita yan eh. So 1080 by 1080, alam ko na rin yung frame rate ko is 30 FPS. And starting frame ko is literally right here, frame 1. And then ending frame ko is 151. So, let's do that now. So, punta tayo sa add tayo, and then let's add image /sequence. So click natin yan. And then punta tayo sa, hanapin nyo na lang yung image sequence nyo. So dito siya sa aking project folder, animation sequence, shot 3. And then press A to basically select everything na ako dyan. Now, before you click add image strip, dito na, i-select nyo na dito yung ano yung starting frame nyo. So okay na tayo starting frame. Starting frame natin is 1. And frame natin dito is 151 because yun ang nakalagay dun sa render natin kanina, di ba? So 151. Ano next? Dito tayo sa fit method. Instead of scale to fit, lagay natin use original size para gagamitin niya yung full resolution natin. Okay? And then, add image strip na tayo. And then, automatic niyang ilalagay dyan. Now, next na gagawin natin, i-change natin yung total number of frames natin dito sa mismong software. Currently, 250 yan. Isa-set natin ngayon yung ano natin, yung starting frame natin and then yung ending frame natin. Okay na tayo sa starting frame, which is 1. Ending frame natin is 151. Ayun, naka-max out tayo dyan. Now, next, set natin yung output properties natin. I-set natin yung resolution natin to the resolution of our render. No? So, ang resolution ko dito is 1080 by 1080. So, 1080 by 1080. And then, change natin yung frame rate natin to the frame rate that we rendered it. No? So, frame 30. No? FPS 30 yung gamit natin. Select natin yan. And we're basically good. Okay na tayo. Last na natin, standard na output na natin. Saan natin isa-save? Save na lang natin dito sa project folder. Shot sequence, shot 3. And then, ano lang natin dito? Type na natin shot 3-compile. Yan. And then, accept. And then, once that's set na, change na natin yung file format from PNG to FFmpeg video. Now, next, punta tayo sa encoding. So, sa encoding, change natin from Matroska to MPEG-4 para diretsong MP4 siya. And we're basically good here. Now, kung gusto nyo yung output quality nyo, set nyo to highest quality, sure, go ahead. But, okay na yung default settings natin dito. Okay na lahat yan. Now, once everything is all set, punta na tayo sa render, and then render animation. Mabilis na lang to. Sobrang bilis na lang yan. Lang segundo lang yan. Kasi kino-compile na lang naman yan. And there we go. We have our finished animation. So, open up lang natin yung file natin. Ito na, shot 3, compile 01 to 151. And then, open natin yan. There we go. Loop lang natin. Ayan. So, we have our finished animation. Clear tayo? Clear tayo? All right. So, gano'n na rin gawin natin sa 3ds Max. So, demo na rin natin. So, sa 3ds Max, okay na rin yung render ko dito. So, shot 4. So, starting frame niya is 0. Last frame is 150. So, gano'n din gawin natin. Gawa lang tayo ng panibagong file ulit. General. Don't save. And then, call tayo ng panibagong video sequencer. Gawa tayo ng add. Image sequence. And then, hanapin nyo yung image sequence nyo, project folder, image sequences, dito tayo shot 4. And then, select natin lahat. So, A. And then, set natin yung start frame to 0. Kasi yun ang starting frame natin right here. And then, end frame natin was 150. And then, next, fit methods. Gamitin natin, use original size. And then, add image strip. There we go. And then, set na lang natin ulit yung frame range natin. From starting natin is 0. Ending natin was 150. And then, change natin yung frame rate natin. Was 30 as well. And then, yung resolution is 1080 din. And then, repeat the exact same thing. Output, save lang natin sa project folder. Animation sequences, shot 4. Type in lang natin, shot 4-compile. Compile. There we go. And then, accept. And then change file format from PNG to FFmpeg video. And then encoding, gawin natin tong instead from Matroska to MPEG-4. Then lastly, render na lang natin siya from, wait. Lumagpas. Ay, hindi pala lumagpas. Never mind. So, render na tayo. And then render animation. And ganoon lang siya. Mabilis na lang rin. There we go. We have 2 finished na animations. There we go. And then, nasa na isa? Shot 3. Ayan, no? So, there we go. That is our discussion for today. Tapos na tayo. So, there we go. That's our first basics of 3D animation class. Whew! Napahaba din ng discussion din natin. So, are there any questions? Are there any questions? Are there any questions? None. Okay. So, with all that said and done, discuss natin yung Activity 8 nyo. Activity 8 nyo is titled Borgar. If you can already see sa Dropbox natin. So, again, ito na yung sample natin, no? I'm just going, papalitan ko na lang tong sample natin dito. Ang pangit ang sample natin. So, you know the drill na. Ito na yung sample natin, no? So, let's just have it play around. Loop natin to. Yeah. So, yeah, that's our sample already. And then, instruction natin is literally here. So using the knowledge you have learned in keyframe animation, create an animation using the burger model with an FPS count of 24 or 30 and a minimum of 5 seconds. So yun lang naman ang requirement ko, no? Tatlo. Use the burger model that I gave you. FPS count should be 24 or 30 and a minimum of 5 seconds yung total runtime. Okay? It is entirely up to you how you plan to create your burger animation. Kayo bahala kung anong gusto niyo gawin yung ginawa ko sa sa demo natin. Sure, go ahead. But again, I cannot guarantee you a perfect score because I wouldn't give myself a perfect score for this simple demo, no? So, yun. It's up to you, no? Make it better than mine, okay? Then render your animation to the resolution of your choice. Kayo bahala kung ano yung resolution nyo. Okay? Yung ginawa ko dito is a 1:1 resolution, 1080 by 1080. Kayo bahala, no? Note, higher the resolution, the longer the render time. And then, once nagawa nyo lahat yon, i-upload nyo yung ginawa nyong animation with the title MM3DANI-Borgar on YouTube and submit a thumbnail render of your animation in Big Sky with the file name, surname _ Act 8 Borgar. And then, i-add nyo yung link sa comments before submission. Okay? So basically, ang isasubmit nyo sa akin sa Dropbox is mamili lang kayo dito ng mga sa image sequence nyo. That's literally already a thumbnail rendered, no? So mamili na lang kayo dyan kung ano isasubmit nyo sa Dropbox and then sa comment section, ilalagay nyo yung link sa YouTube nyo. No? Yung sa animation nyo. I-upload nyo yung animation nyo sa YouTube. Okay? So, are we clear? Are we clear on that? Are we clear? Are there any questions? For this activity po, should we just have a static camera? Sige, sure. You can have a static camera, but I don't really have any requirements naman. Sure, go ahead if you want to have a unique sa camera natin. Hindi ko naman tinuro yung natin, what we can do with the camera yet. Kasi gagawin ko pa yan sa last discussion. But sure, yeah, you can, sure, kung gusto mo static camera, sure, go ahead. Ako static camera lang ginawa ko dito. Are there any other questions? Okay. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions?
No, sir.
Yes, Julian?
Oh, no, I just said no, sir.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, I guess I can end the class right now, no? So saktong tayo 4 o'clock halos, na hindi pala 3:53 pa lang. So with all that said and done, reminders ko na lang, next meeting is going to be a face-to-face classes where most likely we can end our discussion throughout the term, no? Ma-cover siguro natin hanggang rigging na rin next meeting para mahaba-haba yung work time nyo sa sa finals nyo. And also next meeting, please attend, no? Please attend because I will be holding grade consultations as well, no? Yung mga nagsabi kanina na gustong magstay ngayon in regards to our grade consultation, yes, you can do that here na rin, no? So aside from that, yeah, I think that's everything naman. Deadline ng activity 8 is going to be next meeting, no? 11:59 PM. Okay? So I think that's everything naman na. Yeah, I think that's everything think, yep, that's everything na. So with all that said and done, you guys are dismissed na. So good luck in creating your activity 8 and go have fun sa animation nyo. Definitely, kaya-kaya nyo na gawin yung ano nyo, finals nyo starting now, no? So good luck, guys. Good luck. So go have fun. You're all dismissed.